Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 digital desk for a soggy and wet Friday. Live look from our High 5 camera at downtown Memphis. You can see there's some rain on the lens there, and you can just see cloudy skies. We're expecting rain throughout much of the day. Midtown High 5 camera, same kind of thing. We're expecting rain all day, and there may be some clearing tonight. Meteorologist Spencer Denton has details.
A soggy start to your Friday because of a front that is going to linger across the Mid-South for much of the day today, and it's going to keep rain in the area through at least sunset for many locations across the Mid-South. Let's show you what to expect with this system. We'll talk about the timing as we go through the day. The early morning round of rain will finally start to weaken, but another round will push through in the afternoon. So some of this could even contain a little bit of thunderstorm activity, not expecting anything severe. Temperatures actually staying kind of cool in the 50s to low 60s. Some of the heaviest rain will fall over North Mississippi as we go through 3, 4, 5 o'clock, and then it finally exits off to the east by 8 p.m. Still some rain in West Tennessee, Northeast Mississippi, and then everybody gets to dry out heading into the overnight, and some clearing by tomorrow morning, but cool temperatures in the mid 40s. So a chilly start to your Saturday. We'll see increasing clouds through the day on Saturday. By Saturday evening, the clouds will begin to thicken up quite a bit. But between this afternoon and tonight, we're talking about an additional 1 to 2 inches of rain on top of an inch or two that we've already seen in some areas of the Mid-South. Now we have some new data too for this weekend, because Saturday evening and Saturday night, this is around 7 or 7:30, there could be some other shower activity that develops and pushes through in the overnight hours. So we're not done with the rain completely, even as we head into the weekend. Most of that should exit by late Sunday morning. So we'll keep you posted throughout the weekend on the Action News 5 First Alert weather app. Be sure and check back for updates on those rain chances. But this afternoon, pretty much everybody gets wet. If you haven't this morning yet, you will by the afternoon. Temperatures generally in the upper 50s to low to mid 60s. Tonight, mid 40s. We'll see clouds early, but it should begin to clear late. And then checking out the First Alert 7-day forecast, showers late Saturday night. Sunday looks pretty cool. Temperatures in the 40s at night, 60s during the day, unseasonably cool through next week, and maybe another chance of a shower or storm by Tuesday or Wednesday.
All right, you've been hearing from meteorologist Spencer Denton about how spring temperatures are here. It certainly feels like spring is sprung. Warmer weather comes opportunities, of course, to improve our health, but there are also a few risks for seniors out there. Join me now on the Action News 5 digital desk is Dr. Jana Robinson of Oak Street Health's Fraser Center in Memphis. And Dr. Robinson, good morning to you. There is a recent study I want to talk to you about. It found that among people 60 and over, the more steps they take, the lower their risk of cardiovascular disease. First off, what do you think of this study? And let's talk about the importance it is for seniors to keep moving.
Good morning, Andrew. This study is really another big supporter of exercise in general for seniors. People who exercise, regardless of their age or other medical conditions, live longer than those who don't. And this study shows even more benefit with lowering cardiovascular risk. This is a great thing.
It sounds like it. It really does. And the study goes on to say that there's all kinds of physical health benefits, of course, but it also helps with their mental health, overcoming social isolation that we all saw during the pandemic, depression, especially seasonal depression out there associated with being inside the winter months. Where are the risk factors when it comes to seniors, I guess, kind of getting out and about this spring and summer months? I guess some of it is just being a target for people who want to do not necessarily the best things, right?
Right. And our seniors are targets just like kind of anybody else can in areas where they feel unsafe. When my patients, who are all seniors, ask me what they should do if they feel unsafe, I tell them to walk in their home. Getting steps even inside their home can be helpful. However, there are additional benefits of being outside, like you mentioned. Things like walking in general increases the blood flow to the brain. Exercise helps strengthen the part of your brain called your hippocampus, which is part of the brain that helps with our verbal memory and learning. So while it's great to get outside and get some extra vitamin D and experience the sunshine, just being more physically active and taking more steps in a day also benefits them a great deal.
You know, I knew a lot of seniors, and I still do, that go to different areas, either businesses, malls, the Botanic Garden, the Lichterman Nature Center, just some place where they can get their steps. Those places sound like great spots. Where else can people get their steps? You mentioned their home, but where else do you recommend some of your patients get steps?
All of those are wonderful places. Our local YMCAs are great places. Lots and lots of our patients have the ability to join silver sneaker plans through their insurance plans, which is a great benefit for them. And several Memphis area gyms do participate in those programs where they can go and get steps and be safe and do that at the same time.
You know, obviously we were talking about, you know, ways to make sure that they're safe, obviously in a safe environment so that they feel very comfortable walking. But what about some of those other suggestions, tips, ways to be safe while walking? I know hydration's an issue.
Hydration can be an issue. Our older population is much more susceptible to dehydration. So making sure that you carry water with you and don't get overheated. If it's a particularly warm day, you want to try to go in the morning before it gets too hot, or later in the day as the heat wanes. So not walking during the middle of the day would be really, really important. You should, and always make sure to check the weather and make sure they're not going to get caught in a storm or things like that.
You know, we've talked about walking here. What other suggestions do you have for seniors out there? Maybe some other low-impact exercising, and some seniors that may have a problem just kind of, you know, walking, either a disability or otherwise.
Right. Our seniors, just like other populations, their physical ability varies from person to person. Chair exercises are fantastic. With the advent of the internet, there are lots and lots of chair exercise videos available. Tai Chi is another really, really great exercise that helps promote balance and is low impact, that can help folks do that. We actually have Tai Chi in some of our centers once a week. In our community rooms, which are free and open to the public.
Excellent, excellent. Dr. Robinson, is there anything else you want to mention before we let you go?
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to let everybody know how our seniors can exercise and stay safe. Also, like I said, walking around the house, if you're not in great exercise shape, try walking during your commercials. You'll get 7 minutes of exercise during a 30-minute show and 17 minutes of exercise during an hour show.
Great stuff as always. Dr. Jana Robinson, Oak Street Healthcare's Frazier Center. We appreciate you coming on the digital desk to talk about ways to get the seniors moving out there, especially in the spring and summer months. Jana, appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Andrew.
And now we are set today to launch our next push. And that's a push for funding for a brand new Frazier High School.
Okay, so that is Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris made the announcement at the Frazier Exchange Club weekly meeting. He says he will present his request to fund a new school next week in his budget. Memphis Shelby County Schools asking for $10 million immediately, another $70 million over time. And Interim Superintendent Tony Williams says the district can begin construction of a new school within 12 to 18 months after funding is approved. The Shelby County Commission has to approve that plan. Congratulations to the newest graduates of the Memphis Police Department's Basic Recruit Training. MPD graduated 17 newly certified officers from its regional training program. They will serve small departments around West Tennessee, including Collierville, Germantown, and Memphis Shelby County schools. Memphis Police Chief C.J. Davis sounding off on the department's juvenile crime abatement plan. Before it was scrapped, it would have focused on juveniles without adult supervision in downtown Memphis. And now Chief Davis is saying that reported plan was never really a plan at all. Mayor Strickland says there will be a new focus on enforcing the city's curfew and that all the details of the initiative could be hammered out next month. I want to tell you about a man who died after teens carjacked a car and then crashed into him. This happened around Wednesday, about 5:15 in the morning. Moccasin Drive, two 17-year-olds carjacked a woman at gunpoint. Investigators say 20 minutes later, these suspects then crashed into someone at the intersection of South 3rd and East Brooks. The man in that vehicle that was crashed into died. The two suspects in the carjacked vehicle taken to the hospital critical. They're both being charged with carjacking, employment of a firearm during a dangerous felony. All right, Tennessee's legislative session ends. Governor Bill Lee's order of protection law remains in limbo. Stephanie Douglas has more.
Is likely our last chance.
Are shrinking by the hour to be approved by the Tennessee legislator.
Mr. Speaker, I don't want to hug another mom knowing that we could have done more.
Democrat Tennessee Senator Jeff Yarbrough attempted to force a vote on Senate Bill 1029 Thursday by using what's called a recall motion. That bill aimed to keep guns away from people who pose a threat was voted down by the GOP without debate, like 75 other gun-related bills filed during this legislative session.
There's broad agreement that this is the right approach. It should be that simple, but sadly it's not.
Governor Lee's push to pass his proposal will not be considered. The Republican Party calling the no name and no sponsor bill a red flag gun law. Despite the outrage over the Nashville school shooting, which killed 3 children and 3 adults, lawmakers did pass a bill exempting gun makers from being sued after shootings. This bill is set to be signed into law by the governor. In Memphis, Stephanie Douglas, Action News 5.
Well, it happens a lot. You switch jobs once or twice and you have money in multiple retirement plans. So what should you do with that money? Should you consolidate? Should you keep them where they are, or should you do something else? A third option, perhaps. Watching your wallet report right now, we have Rachel DePompa, who talked with a financial coach about what you should do with these multiple retirement plans.
Maybe you left a job and never rolled over your 401k to that new job, or your company got bought out and you have an old retirement account just sitting there. A lot of people have multiple retirement accounts these days, and there are several different choices that you can make. Cherry Dale, a financial coach with the Virginia Credit Union, says you could just do nothing, leave the money in the old account and let it grow. You could roll that money from your previous plan into your new 401k. If your new company doesn't have a 401k, you could open a Roth IRA and roll it into that.
So that's an individual retirement account that you do not need an employer to have that type of retirement account.
If you do any of these options, Dale says you need to consider the fees for these plans, and you need to know your comfort level in managing an account like this.
You've got to just make sure if you've got multiple retirement accounts that you are taking care of everything, and that you are keeping things like your beneficiaries up to date, contact information up to date as well.
If you get remarried or you have kids, any major life event, you want to look up your accounts and update your beneficiaries. Now, there are pros and cons to everything, so if you feel like you need a little help in decisions like this, you could also contact a financial advisor. With this Watch in Your Wallet, I'm Rachel DePompa.
Well, from cybersecurity to physical security at Liberty Stadium. Yes, we are talking about security there. Brand new security system. Have you been to the Liberty Bowl lately? Also, of course, known as Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium. There are some updates that you will see the next time you go there, and it's pretty intricate. I was there at the Memphis Showboats game over the weekend on Saturday, and I saw some of it firsthand. Let's bring in the CEO and physical security expert at Extract One Technologies. That's the company behind security technology at the Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium. Peter Evans joining us now on the digital desk. Peter, good morning. Tell us about this new security system that's at Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium.
Well, good morning, Andrew, and thank you very much for having me on the broadcast this morning. It's great to see you. What Liberty Bank Stadium has done is, they've been proactive in their approach to think about how we enhance the patron experience while increasing security overall for the fans. As we all know, we live in uncertain times right now. We hear about weapons threat on almost a daily basis, which is a concern for society overall. And the challenge is a lot of these venues are looking to enhance their security. But as we all know, security and the patron experience can often be in conflict with each other. The more security you put in, the longer the lines are, for example, at a venue like Liberty Bank Stadium. And so what we have developed is a solution that replaces the old walk-through metal detectors, which were built 40 or 50 years ago for our penitentiary systems. And using advanced technology, advanced sensors, and artificial intelligence software, an individual can walk through. And if they're only carrying their watch, their wallet, their keys, they don't have to divest those things, and because those would alert on a metal detector. They just can walk on in, just like you're walking down the sidewalk. And what we will alert on is weapons, knives, and guns. So we have developed a weapons detection solution, not a metal detection solution. And we're using the same sort of digital innovation that, for example, has changed the way that we do banking, retail, education, and in fact, the ability for you and I to have this conversation remotely. So digital technologies is an answer to creating this, removing this conflict between experience and between increased safety. And the world we live in today, that's really, I think, something that people are appreciating.
So, Peter, we have thousands of people that join us here on the digital desk each and every morning. I'm sure many of them went to the Memphis Showboats game over the weekend. What can you tell us to people who are not familiar with this technology the next time they go to Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium? What can they expect as opposed to some of the old security features?
Well, what we hope that people experience is the ability to, walk right in at a much faster pace. People no longer have to take their watch, their wallet, their cell phone, their keys off and put them all in a bucket, which is highly invasive and annoying. You just want to have a great experience. You just want to go to the game. So instead of standing in a long line to wait to go in, typically people just walk right through our system. And only if they have something that's potentially suspicious will they alert and be screened. So in general, instead of 4 or 5 people per minute getting into going through a walk-through metal detector, now about 40, 50 people a minute can go through a system like ours. So consequently, people just walk right in. They get right into the venue much faster and not having to stand in long, long lines. Now, like any new venue, as we understand the patron flow and the flow of things, we'll fine tune and improve week after week after week until we've got this really dialed in and people can just have that great experience going into the venue.
So let me ask you this, because I understand that it's going to be in 2 different phases that this security system will be deployed. And I also am curious how you're going to be training some of the people who work at the stadium there, because when I went this weekend, I felt like I knew that there was something different. I saw those pillars that we're seeing on this video, but I wasn't necessarily sure that the people who worked at the stadium were completely trained on some of the new features that you're mentioning.
Well, it's a great question. So a couple of thoughts. First, you asked about the two phases. The USFL was the first trigger for Liberty Bank Stadium to put the technology in, and we wanted to make sure we had the first phase in place to address all of the needs of the USFL and the Memphis Showboats for the next 10 weeks or so. And then post that, the second phase will be expanding the coverage to the rest of the venue to host future Memphis Tiger games and any other activity that occurs at the venue when it's much more full. And so we'll add another layer of technology for more of the gates. In terms of training and things, like any new technology, probably the first time you used your smartphone, Andrew, you might have made a few mistakes because it was new. It was different than your flip phone. And so with every week, we go through the training with the security staff and we get them more and more familiar on how to run and operate the system in a very smooth manner. And so it just takes a few weeks of transition time and experience. The same thing applies for the fans. We still have fans walking up, holding their cell phones in their hands and wondering where they put them in a bucket. And we have to train the fans over time to say, this is different. Just walk right in and enjoy the experience.
Excellent. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Peter, before we let you go?
Well, I have to tip my hat and applaud the mayor of the city of Memphis. Very proactive, forward thinking about creating an environment that's safe for all fans while increasing their security and increasing their experience. I think it's very proactive for him to lean into things like this and actually create a much better environment. So we're very pleased to be working with the city, working with Oakview Group, and of course with the stadium itself to deliver this next set of innovation. And we'll be looking to do more and more of this across Memphis.
Is there a place where fans maybe can learn more about it so that they can be prepared the next time they enter the stadium?
Absolutely. Obviously, our website is a great place to go, www.extract1.com. And there's all sorts of videos there, all sorts of information. And for whether it's the fans looking for more information, whether it's other businesses looking for more information, we welcome people calling us and sharing how we can change the world for the better for all of us.
Okay, Peter Evans, CEO, physical security expert at Extract One Technologies. Thanks for your time. Very informative this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Andrew. Looking forward to talking to you more and perhaps seeing you at a game in the future.
Okay, Andrew Douglas here in the Action News 5 digital desk. April is Head and Neck Cancer Awareness Month, and you may not know how to get screened here or the probability of perhaps you and the chances of getting a cancer affiliated with your head area or your neck area. Joining me now to talk about this is Dr. John Gleistein. He's with Methodist Le Bonheur Healthcare. John, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Great, great. So let's talk a little bit about this Awareness Month and why do you think it exists? Is there just people that just kind of not really know much about head and neck cancers, or is it kind of tough to diagnose? Explain.
Well, it's a good question. Head and neck cancers are something that can present in a variety of different ways. And some people, it's very obvious because they have a really sore spot on the tongue, or they are having a lot of difficulty swallowing. But in some people, it can be a lot more subtle. Sometimes they'll be shaving and they'll notice there's a new spot on their neck that they weren't aware of before. So there are a lot of different ways that these cancers can present, and it's important to be aware of them so that you can try and get checked out. The other thing is that there aren't great screening tests. It's not something that's going to show up on routine blood work. So being aware of the different signs and symptoms is something that can help you out a lot.
Wow. Okay. So are there any screenings at all, or you just have to watch out for the symptoms?
Yeah, the best thing you can do is if you're concerned about something is get it checked out. So sometimes these patients will come to us sent by their dentist who's cleaning their teeth, and they look in the mouth and see something that doesn't look right. Or maybe it's their dermatologist or their primary care doctor sees something on their regular exam that looks abnormal and sends them in. But a lot of times it's the patients themselves who realize something's different and they want to get it checked out.
I follow you. Okay, so when it comes to head and neck cancer, what parts of the body are included in that whole process?
So head and neck cancer is a subset of cancers that include the face, anywhere on the skin, inside the mouth, the throat, the voice box, the ears, and then all the salivary glands, the saliva-producing glands throughout the face and neck.
Okay, good to know there. So obviously it includes everything around the face. Let's talk now about the warning signs, because it sounds like that is something that's so important. What should people watch for?
So signs that could be worrisome are there's a new sore that's developed inside the mouth that doesn't go away quickly. You know, sores can pop up inside the mouth that are totally normal, but usually they will go away within 1 or 2 weeks. Something that's been there for longer is something that needs to get checked out. A sore throat that hasn't gone away, a change in your voice that hasn't gone away. In short periods, all these are normal findings, but when they last for a while, that's something to really be concerned about. And then, as I was saying earlier, a neck mass, if something pops up and there's a lump on your neck that wasn't there before, that's a concerning finding.
How common are head and neck cancers?
They're actually increasing in frequency. So it's a lot of different types of cancers in the country are going down in frequency. Head and neck cancer is rising. And so in the general population, it's not something that you see every day, but as a head and neck cancer specialist, I see new head and neck cancers almost every single day.
How curable is this cancer? I mean, what's the success rate? I mean, cancers go on all sides of the spectrum there. I mean, is it one that's got a good success rate?
That varies tremendously based off how early you catch it. So if you catch something that's just a small spot, that's something that's going to be very treatable. If it's something that you've been aware of these symptoms for a year, but you've been neglecting to go get it checked out, it could be a lot more serious and could be a lot more difficult to treat.
You mentioned it's growing. Why is it growing, you think?
Well, the specific type of cancer that's really growing is throat cancer caused by the HPV virus, the human papilloma virus. This is the same virus that causes cervical cancer in women. And it's the same virus that you are protecting against when you get your Gardasil vaccine as a teenager. And so that particular type of cancer is on the rise. And the good news about it is that it actually is more treatable than some of the other cancers that are associated with a long history of smoking and drinking, like many other head and neck cancers are.
So how can we prevent head and neck cancer, or can we prevent it at all?
Well, the biggest risk factors for head and neck cancer, number one by far is smoking. So if you're a smoker, quitting smoking is definitely the best thing you can do, not only for for your overall body health, but to reduce your risks of developing a head and neck cancer in the future. The other thing is with these cancers that are caused by the HPV virus, getting vaccinated against the HPV virus can help protect you from ever developing one in the first place.
Should we be performing self-exams on one another or each other, I guess?
Well, I think that being aware of what's going on inside of your mouth and what's going on in your neck are something that can be very helpful. Sometimes patients come in and they say, I was brushing my teeth and noticed this spot on the roof of my mouth that hadn't been there before. And, that's a way to potentially catch something early. And so if you just look in your mouth from time to time or feel your neck from time to time, and if something feels different to you, then go get it checked out. It may be nothing, but potentially you're catching something early that can really save you.
If someone notices a change in their voice, or they find a lump, or, as you mentioned, there's a spot, in their mouth that is unusual and they've never seen before, what should they do?
Well, usually the most common route is someone goes and sees their primary care doctor, and the primary care doctor will look at it and either say, oh, this is nothing, this is a benign spot or just a normal lymph node. But if they have any concern whatsoever, they'll send them on to a head and neck specialist such as myself and get them checked out for further exam.
Okay, so early prevention is key. Early detection, I should say, is key. Anything else you'd like to mention before we move on, Doctor?
Well, I think that being aware of your own health is something that's going to serve you well throughout your entire life. So whether it's trying to catch a cancer early or just trying to be aware of what your body's trying to tell you is important. So That combined with quitting smoking are definitely the two best things you can do to stay in good health and try to prevent head and neck cancers from ever developing.
Is there a place, doctor, where we can get some more information about head and neck cancers?
Yes, the American Head and Neck Society is a society that there are links to online that can give lots of information for patients. There are videos, there are educational materials, and so if there's something you're interested in learning more about, that's a great place to look.
All right, Dr. John Gleistein with Methodist Le Bonheur Healthcare. We appreciate you telling us about head and neck cancers. Certainly, April is Head and Neck Cancer Awareness Month. Thanks so very much for bringing awareness to this issue.
Absolutely. Thank you.
A soggy start to your Friday because of a front that is going to linger across the Mid-South for much of the day today, and it's going to keep rain in the area through at least sunset for many locations across the Mid-South. Let's show you what to expect with this system. We'll talk about the timing. As we go through the day, the early morning round of rain will finally start to weaken, but another round will push through in the afternoon. So some of this could even contain a little bit of thunderstorm activity, not expecting anything severe. Temperatures actually staying kind of cool in the 50s to low 60s. Some of the heaviest rain will fall over North Mississippi as we go through 3, 4, 5 o'clock, and then it finally exits off to the east. By 8 p.m., still some rain in West Tennessee, Northeast Mississippi, and then everybody gets to dry out heading into the overnight, and some clearing by tomorrow morning, but cool temperatures in the mid 40s, so a chilly start to your Saturday. We'll see increasing clouds through the day on Saturday. By Saturday evening, the clouds will begin to thicken up quite a bit. But between this afternoon and tonight, we're talking about an additional 1 to 2 inches of rain on top of an inch or two that we've already seen in some areas of the Mid-South. Now we have some new data too for this weekend, because Saturday evening and Saturday night, this is around 7 or 7:30, there could be some other shower activity that develops and pushes through in the overnight hours. So we're not done with the rain completely, even as we head into the weekend. Most of that should exit by late Sunday morning. So we'll keep you posted throughout the weekend on the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app. Be sure and check back for updates on those rain chances. But this afternoon, pretty much everybody gets wet. If you haven't this morning yet, you will by the afternoon. Temperatures generally in the upper 50s to low to mid 60s. Tonight, mid 40s. We'll see clouds early, but it should begin to clear late. And then checking out the First Alert 7-day forecast, showers late Saturday night. Sunday looks pretty cool. Temperatures in the 40s at night, 60s during the day, unseasonably cool through next week, and maybe another chance of a shower or storm by Tuesday or Wednesday.
Okay, TSA finds guns on carry-on bags almost every single day. Investigative reporter Brendan Keefe looks into the problem and the solution TSA has yet to install at every airport across the country.
Move, move. Everybody's running and screaming.
I got some kind of explosion at the main checkpoint. APD said some type of explosion at the main checkpoint. Somebody saying gunfire.
November 2021, Atlanta police run toward the sound of gunfire.
We have an active shooter inside the airport, so we need everybody to stay clear. Keep the planes away from the concourses.
The armed passenger ran toward the T concourse, but then turned around and exited into the South Terminal, where the gunman blended in with other passengers who were also running away. How did a passenger get to a gun during secondary screening on the secure side of the main checkpoint?
A TSA officer is going through his bag. He grabbed the gun in the bag and took off, grabbed the weapon and ran.
And right here, that's when the gun went off. Kenny Wells was a convicted felon who wasn't supposed to have a gun anywhere, let alone inside the busiest airport in the world.
Often, a bag ends up on the secondary inspection table right in front of the passenger because there's a suspected prohibited item inside. That could be as simple as a bottle of water, but it could also be something far more dangerous. Right now, there's no barrier preventing a passenger from reaching into their bag during the TSA inspection other than the honor system. Why no barrier? Why not have a barrier in that secondary screening between the passenger and the suspect bag?
So we have barriers up now. So back in November 21, we didn't have barriers up.
TSA is right. There was no barrier at all that Thanksgiving week. This is the same exact station more than a year later.
Those barriers are for COVID, not to prevent access to the bag.
No, but it does give us the added benefit of providing separation.
We checked airports across the nation. A few, like West Palm Beach, have full-length barriers between passengers and bags selected for secondary screening. In other airports, those full barriers still have gaps big enough to reach through. But most, from New York to Atlanta, still have no barrier at hand level. Why does it matter? Because TSA detected more than 6,500 guns last year at airport checkpoints. Atlanta leads the nation with an average of more than one gun found every day.
It's been more than 20 years since a single failed shoe bombing, and we're still taking off our shoes. A gun went off in the busiest airport in the world and effectively brought it to a standstill, and we still don't have a physical barrier between the passenger and a potential gun in a suspect bag.
If we know that there's a firearm, we're not going to let the person that owns that bag get access to it. Unfortunately, it happened in this situation because we weren't at the time aware that it was a firearm. We were supposed to do the secondary screening.
Okay, very interesting there. Certainly a problem that TSA has had, and Memphis International is no exception. The important thing is if you do want to have a loaded, or rather a gun in your luggage, you have to notify the airline, and then you cannot have it on a carry-on basis. You have to check it, and it has to be in a certain case in order for it to fly with you in checked luggage. The airlines will be able to fill you in on exactly how the proper way and how to manage that kind of luggage. Let's switch gears here and talk about hair loss. It affects more than 80 million Americans, men and women here. So by the age of 30, 25% of men, that's 1 in 4 men, will experience hair loss, and 12% of women will. This was the subject of our Best Life report, and most times we hear that genetics is the most common cause of hair loss in men and women, but there are some other factors you may not know about that can cause you to shed your locks and ways to avoid it. Watch this.
Why are you tapping my hair?
No matter how creative you are, it's hard to cover up your bald spots.
Smooth.
So what's causing it to happen? The first culprit, soda. One study in men showed that those who drank soda experienced a 57% greater chance of hair loss than those who did not. High sugar intake is known to cause weight gain and increase the risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Both are linked to hair loss. Still shedding? You're probably stressed. According to Penn Medicine, when a person experiences stress, the body produces the hormone cortisol. Elevated levels can disrupt the normal hair growth cycle, leading to hair loss. And are you getting enough vitamins? Lack of biotin, zinc, and iron can lead accelerated hair loss. And even a severe accident, surgery, and burns can also shock the hair follicles and cause up to 75% of your hair to fall out, sometimes several months after the fact. The bottom line, if your locks are less than what they used to be, check in with your doctor to find out the root of the problem.
Some other culprits: thyroid problems, autoimmune diseases, psoriasis, and ringworm. Many of the foods that you eat can also be responsible for the way your hair is treated. Foods that are heavy in dairy, high in sugar, grease, carbonated, refined carbs, and swordfish have all been linked to an increased amount of hair loss. With ways to live your best life, I'm Andrew Douglas, Action News 5. All right, the maker of Narcan nasal spray is working to lower the costs of the life-saving product, Emergent. It says it's aiming for an out-of-pocket price of less than $50 now that the FDA allows for over-the-counter sales. The goal is to match the price that government agencies, nonprofits, and first responders pay. Wholesale price right now, $125. Pricing for over-the-counter Narcan will be left to individual retailers. Emergent aims to have Narcan available online and in stores by this summer. Okay, the abortion pill in question, U.S. Supreme Court expected to decide it sometime today. We have details right now.
Confusion for care providers.
This is like, honestly, a game of hockey where you have no idea where the puck is.
As the Supreme Court weighs a decision on access to the abortion medication mifepristone. On Wednesday, Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito gave the court more time to consider the issue, extending a temporary hold on an order by a federal judge in Texas that would block access to the drug.
17 states in the District of Columbia have been ordered to keep mifepristone access as it is, and a judge who purported to issue a nationwide injunction telling the FDA to change the way that mifepristone is being administered. And so you do have a conflict, which is why the Supreme Court definitely needs to do something about it.
The reason for that extension is unclear, as is the path the High Court will take, but the decisions the justices could make will have wide-ranging implications beyond if and when mifepristone can be used. One question at issue, can a single judge or panel overrule the FDA? The precedent set by the ruling could create chaos in the pharmaceutical industry and threaten the regulatory system that approves new treatments. This is causing concern within the medical community.
This case is a challenge to how we practice medicine as healthcare providers.
And on both sides of the aisle in Washington.
They basically have said this, the last two judges, hey, guess what? We know better than the FDA.
It could be this drug today, and who knows what the next one might be.
I'm Mike Valerio reporting.
Okay, lawmakers in the state of Tennessee are working on a state budget slashing the amount of taxpayer dollars funding anti-abortion crisis pregnancy centers. Governor Lee proposed $100 million. State lawmakers have settled on $20 million. Supporters say the crisis pregnancy centers provide essential social services to pregnant women. Critics accuse them of providing women with misleading information, but $20 million for a crisis pregnancy center, significantly more than other states provide. New survey says Mississippi's abortion restrictions could cost the state some future doctors. A study from the Association of American Medical Colleges finds the number of medical school students who applied to residency training programs tickled down just a little last year. OB/GYN interest took a notable dip, dropping about 5% nationwide. So that's all across the U.S. Now, Mississippi is one of 6 states without a religious exemption for school vaccinations. A federal judge is ruling the state has to develop one. The argument for the families who filed suit is that their First Amendment rights were being violated. They claim the state's refusal to offer religious exemptions has harmed children by forcing their parents to homeschool. Some are celebrating the ruling, saying it's the freedom families have fought for. Others say there might be some unintended consequences.
A lot of us would like to know what the answer is, why they have fought us so long and so hard on this. But once we made it into court, it was obvious that they were violating our religious liberties and that our laws are against the Constitution.
Well, if the children who can receive the vaccines start going unvaccinated, then that allows more and more children in that vulnerable situation to get these vaccine-preventable illnesses.
Mississippi does have a medical exemption. Tickets to the St. Jude Dream Home are almost gone. There are less than 650 tickets available. Get yours before they go. You'll be eligible to win a $10,000 Visa gift card plus a sterling silver cuff with gold and diamond accents. This prize is good only through May 12th, so don't wait. Reserving a ticket will also put your name in the drawing to win a dream home worth nearly $600,000. Call 1-800-224-6681 and reserve, or visit dreamhome.org and reserve your chance to win today. Okay, Earth Day is this Saturday. It's April 22nd, more than 50 years of Earth Day. Can you believe it? Well, let's talk about Earth Day because we all want cleaner air and cleaner water. The issue and where many people differ is how do we get there? Let's bring in Daphne Moore. She is a communications director for the Walton Family Foundation. She joins us on the digital desk. Good morning, Daphne. Tell me about how we get cleaner air and cleaner water.
Hi, good morning, and thank you for having me. At the foundation, we believe that as Americans, we are experiencing climate change largely through water, as you mentioned. And, that takes many different forms. We are seeing droughts and fires in the West, flooding in the middle of the country, sea level rise along our coast, and I think everywhere severe weather. And so it's really bringing it home, and we're seeing the impacts in our own backyard. One of the things that we are doing, a step that we are taking, is really trying to help provide more information to local communities, not only about the impacts, but also about potential solutions. And we just finished up a poll with Morning Consult that really looked at expectations that Americans have about good fact-based journalism on climate change. Again, not just the impacts, which can be overwhelming, but also solutions. And we found that about 3 in 5 Americans are really looking to news organizations for the information. And there's a challenge. News organizations are being asked to do a lot more with a lot less. And so that's why foundations like ours are providing philanthropic support that not only helps create the capacity for this type of information, but also resources and training, because these are complex topics and it takes talent to really break it down to understand the local impacts.
Daphne, I couldn't agree with you more. These are complex topics and complex solutions as a result to some of the issues here. I looked at a Pew Research poll that came out yesterday, and climate change is such a divisive issue. Democrats look at it completely different than Republicans. It's very much a partisan divide. And then the other issue that came out of Pew was that 37% of Americans say climate change is not a top priority or is a top priority. That means other people are looking at economy and healthcare costs. How do we bridge the gap? How do we get people together to all agree on some of those issues that I initially brought up, which is clean air and clean water, because everyone can agree with that, right?
Exactly. We all need water. And that is why we focus specifically on water at the foundation, because as humans, we need it, but also our economies need it. And we believe that nature and people can thrive together, particularly when we're looking for creative and innovative solutions, people that are being bold in their belief that there is reason to have hope and that we can make a difference in local communities. One example that I love that we've supported is along the Mississippi River, where we have seen, the nutrients that are coming downstream, but also the land loss along the coast, and efforts that are allowing the river to flow the way it was originally designed to do, and taking, the nutrients and sediment, our fancy way of just saying dirt, and allowing the river to actually rebuild land, which is of great benefit not only to nature, but also to the communities that live along the coast and are impacted by land loss.
So we have Saturday, we have Earth Day, a big event to really kind of focus on what we can do to make our environment, to make our planet safer and better, and maybe just kind of get towards that goal of better water, better air, cleaner renewable energy out there. Is there anything that the Walton Family Foundation is doing to maybe kind of just recommend people do on this Earth Day on Saturday?
I think one of the most important things that we all can do is become informed and look for good sources of fact-based information that go beyond the impacts and just the overwhelming nature of the challenge, but that also talk about solutions in our local communities, that we can come together and, like you mentioned, across lines of difference, because we all care about where we live. We care about the future for our children, and having water and air are essential not only to the planet, but to us as people and to communities and economies.
Where can people go to get some more information?
Yeah, certainly local news organizations, but I'd also want to recommend our website, which is thewaltonfamilyfoundation.org. Some great stories about what people are doing in local communities.
Okay, Daphne Moore, Communications Director with the Walton Family Foundation. Appreciate your time, Daphne. Thanks very much. I want to show you right now, the American Humane Group has been on the ground in the Memphis area for the past week due to the overwhelming volume of animals that have been displaced after the storms hit March 31st. The DeSoto County Animal Shelter has called in American Humane for emergency assistance. The shelter has been operating at 200% of the capacity due to the influx of animals. So American Humane arrived to help the shelter operate at emergency capacity, setting up temporary housing, crates, kennels, and pens to accommodate some of the animals there. For the past week, American Humane has helped care for approximately 110 animals who have been either injured, as I mentioned, displaced, or separated from their owners during the storm. American Humane has the team on the ground that's provided a number of important services there. I want to bring in right now the president and CEO of American Humane, Robert Ganser. She is joining us on the digital desk right now to talk more about what the organization is doing in Tipton County in West Tennessee to help some of the animals. Robin, good morning for joining. Thank you for joining us this morning. Tell me about the team that's on the ground here in the Memphis area, and have you been in contact with them, and what are they telling you?
Absolutely, Andrew. Thank you so much. First of all, our team's on the ground. We're proud to be in Tipton County today, actually providing emergency relief services for these animals in crisis. These animals have been terribly impacted by the storms. They're looking for their family members to be reunited. Some have been needed emergency medical care, which is very important. But frankly, they've all needed a lot of extra TLC because storms, while they're scary for us humans, they're also quite scary for our animal friends.
You know, Robin, I know that the shelters, a lot of them across our area, are already at capacity because it's puppy and kitten season. How much has this storm really put a strain on some of those shelters? I know there was something that said it was 200% capacity right now in Tipton County alone.
Yes, and 200% capacity that's dangerous levels when you have that many animals that need time, attention, and care. And keep in mind, people locally have also been personally impacted. So you have shelter volunteers and employees who are also impacted by the storms. They have their own needs at home. So that's why American Humane sends our very best, our trained animal first responders to take over those duties to provide a relief valve for these shelters who are operating at such high capacity. Not only is it puppy and kitten season, but you also have animals who have been really lost in these storms who need to be reunited with their family members. So it is dangerous times, but our teams go on the ground. They provide emergency veterinarian care, which is important, a lot of animal enrichment. They've also been able to transport animals to other rescue groups and shelter groups across our great country, to especially those that were identified as stray animals, so they can find a forever loving home. Again, reducing the capacity needs on our local shelters who have been facing so much because of this season of storms.
How many team members are here on the ground? How long are they expected to be here? And we have thousands of people that watch us each and every morning on this streaming channel. Robin, what could they do to help the situation?
Absolutely. Well, we're also, our volunteers and our first responders are also providing pet food emergency drives too. So those who have been impacted by the storms are getting free pet food, free supplies, which is a very important part of our work. So for those listening and watching on today's show, importantly, you can visit AmericanHumane.org to provide for emergency relief funding for our incredible volunteers and staff on the ground. You can also donate at Tipton County Animal Shelter to provide for emergency food and supplies. And, you know, if you're interested, if your heart is open to becoming one of our emergency first responders, sign up for one of our training courses so you can be trained in being one of our humane heroes who go actually out and deploy in times of natural disasters and provide this emergency care. It's an incredible program for those of us who love animals. We need more volunteers who can go at a moment's notice to help our communities and neighbors in crisis.
For all those responsible pet owners out there, what can they do to kind of prepare for these type of things? I know that they're trying to figure out, okay, what can I do so that if there is another storm, God forbid, that they can, be just prepared for anything.
Well, we can count on there being another storm. We're just beginning the season of storms. And I'm here today from my home in Florida. We're gearing up always for the season of storms. What you need to prepare for today, and do not delay, we should all have our pet emergency preparation kit. And in that, we should have a mobile crate or carrier for our animals, big enough for them to stand up and turn around. You need to make sure you have 2 weeks of pet food and supplies, their medication on hand. You always need to make sure your pet has a secure collar with ID tags, and importantly, make sure you have your veterinarian records with you. I always tell all pet parents, never, ever, ever evacuate your home without your pet. Take them with you. They are part of our families, and we never want them to be separated, particularly in a time of crisis. But your pet disaster preparation kit is needed today. Be prepared with that so you can run out with a moment's notice with food, water, medical supplies, photos of your current pet, ID tags, and the like.
There's a lot that we have mentioned here, Robin. Where can people go to get some more information, just some bullet points of what they can do?
Visit AmericanHumane.org. We always keep our blogs up to date on what pet parents can and should be doing in terms of the season of storms. So do visit AmericanHumane.org and stay in touch. And also be on the lookout for American Humane trucks. Our volunteers and our rescue trailers were on the ground all season long, particularly in the season of storms. Wave at them, give them your support as they go by to help all of our communities in crisis. They really are the humane heroes this very day.
President and CEO of American Humane, Robin Ganzert, we really appreciate you breaking down some of the facts and figures, safety checklists for pet owners out there, and what people can do to just prepare for any kind of emergency. And thank you so much for what your organization is doing in the Memphis area right now with some of those displaced pets. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
A soggy start to your Friday because of a front that is going to linger across the Mid-South for much of the day today, and it's going to keep rain in the area through at least sunset for many locations across the Mid-South. Let's show you what to expect with this system. We'll talk about the timing. As we go through the day, the early morning round of rain will finally start to weaken, but another round will push through in the afternoon. So some of this could even contain a little bit of thunderstorm activity, not expecting anything severe. Temperatures actually staying kind of cool in the 50s to low 60s. Some of the heaviest rain will fall over North Mississippi as we go through 3, 4, 5 o'clock. And then it finally exits off to the east. By 8 p.m., still some rain in West Tennessee, Northeast Mississippi, and then everybody gets to dry out heading into the overnight, and some clearing by tomorrow morning, but cool temperatures in the mid 40s. So a chilly start to your Saturday. We'll see increasing clouds through the day on Saturday. By Saturday evening, the clouds will begin to thicken up quite a bit. But between this afternoon and tonight, we're talking about an additional 1 to 2 inches of rain on top of an inch or two that we've already seen in some areas of the Mid-South. Now we have some new data too for this weekend, because Saturday evening and Saturday night, this is around 7 or 7:30, there could be some other shower activity that develops and pushes through in the overnight hours. So we're not done with the rain completely, even as we head into the weekend. Most of that should exit by late Sunday morning. So we'll keep you posted throughout the weekend on the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app. Be sure and check back for updates on those rain chances. But this afternoon, pretty much everybody gets wet. If you haven't this morning yet, you will by the afternoon. Temperatures generally in the upper 50s to low to mid 60s. Tonight, mid 40s. We'll see clouds early, but it should begin to clear late. And then checking out the First Alert 7-day forecast, showers late Saturday night. Sunday looks pretty cool. Temperatures in the 40s at night, 60s during the day, unseasonably cool through next week, and maybe another chance of a shower or storm by Tuesday or Wednesday.
Did you know that any time throughout the year there are about 4,000 Mid-Southerners waiting for an organ donation? And April is Donate Life Month. Mid-South Transplant Foundation has been talking a lot with us about donations and organ transplants, the waiting list, Blue and Green Day in the Mid-South. That was back on April 14th. And I want to bring on right now Richard Edmondson. He is a heart recipient, lives out in Covington, and he joins us on the Action News 5 digital desk to talk more about his story and ways that we can all think about organ donation this time of year. Richard, I appreciate you joining us. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've had a heart transplant in 2016. I was dead for 30 minutes. And they shocked me 17 times to get me back. And it's people thought I wasn't gonna make it, and I did. And I'm here for a reason to share with people about how important it is to be an organ donor. Because it hadn't been for an organ donor, I would not be here today. And another thing we'd like to go ahead.
I was just going to say, how long were you on the waiting list? I know some people are on there for a year or longer. How long were you on there?
Oh, about 3 months. I was in the hospital for 3 months. And of course, it has the blue blood type. I had mine was A positive, so that's a good blood type to have when you're looking for organ transplant.
When was the transplant, and tell me how you're feeling now?
It was back on May 31st, 2016. It was exactly a year later because I had my widowmaker heart attack on May 31st, 2015. So that was something extraordinary. And right now I'm doing pretty good. I have to watch everything and go to my transplant doctors regularly.
Wow. Well, what a story, Richard, and congratulations to you, and so glad you are here with us talking about this story. When you talk with people, because I know that my understanding is that you have been an ambassador with the Mid-South Transplant Foundation. When you talk to people about your story and with regards to organ donation, what do you say?
I just let them know how important it is, how many lives they can save. One person can save 8 lives. And then you got to get the word out there and let people know about it. Because before my heart attack, I did not know much about being an organ donor. And now you can save a lot of lives. And there's a lot of people out there waiting for transplants.
Do you know much about who donated the organ to you, the heart?
Yeah, he was, I got to meet the family. Derek Long was his name. He was 36 years old, and he got hit by a car. It was over in Arkansas. But their family, their daughter, wanted him to be an organ donor. And that's how it came about, me getting his heart.
Wow. And so you met the family, and tell me about that event. What was that like?
That was a special event. We had it down at Baptist East. They had a special time when I think it was about, I'm not sure how many families was there, meeting each other, and it's very, I don't know the exact word, it's
emotional?
I'm very emotional. We got to see the other family, got to talk with them. And we're still in contact with them, or on Facebook. I contact them, and we talk all the time now. They're part of the family. When you become an organ donor, and you're able to meet them, they're part of your life now, and that's wonderful.
Do you ever, a lot of times when people have vivid dreams about all kinds of things, including the organ donor. Have you had any dreams?
No, I really didn't have any dreams. I had a lot of memory loss in my case, so I don't have dreams about anything. I don't remember anything that went on.
I guess the best way that people can support organ donation in the Mid-South Transplant Foundation, Richard, is to just be an organ donor themselves, right?
Correct. We want to get the word out there to everybody to become an organ donor and save somebody's life. It's very special. You'll never know when you'll need it. And you touch a lot of people.
No question about it. What's the website where people can go and get some more information on that?
You can go to Mid-South transplantorganization.org.
MSTF.org? Is that what we're talking about? Mid-South Transplant Foundation?
Foundation.org.
Okay. All right.
You can get information at all the clerk's office, the driver's license centers. We put out pamphlets out there of how many people's needing organ transplants and how you can sign up to be an organ donor.
All right, Richard Edmondson, we appreciate you sharing with us your story about being a heart recipient, and congratulations to you. Thank you so much for joining us, and all the best in the upcoming days, months, and years ahead.
All right. Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Thank you.
Well, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and with 80% of Americans in debt amid inflation and rising interest rates, one of the biggest factors impacting our mental health is financial debt. So joining us to discuss more about that is licensed clinical psychologist and National Debt Relief Financial Wellness Board member, Dr. Razin Moradian. Good morning. Thank you for taking some time to share some information with us. How are you doing?
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So often you hear about the financial damage that is causing debt, but no one really talks and touches on your mental health and how it's impacting that and the implications of what debt can cause. So can you talk a little bit more about the emotional toll that debt can have on people and how damaging it can be?
So, just in general, being in debt is very overwhelming, and people feel as if they have lost control of their lives. And in fact, a survey by National Debt Relief found that about 69% of respondents said being in debt has made them withdraw from the things that they love. And about 70% feel like a black cloud hanging over them when they're in debt. So certainly this loss of control really triggers fear of the unknown and embarrassment. And this heavy burden of debt can also make a person feel very trapped and isolated from others.
What actions can people take to be able to support their mental health while struggling with debt? Because right now it just seems like people are more burdened with debt than ever with everything we're experiencing in the world right now. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yes, absolutely. So, one of the first things you want to do is to establish a plan. And that's really vital in gaining control back over your life. And that's where resources like National Debt Relief can really help. They are the leading debt relief organization that has helped over 450,000 people settle their debt, while really empowering them to lead a healthier financial lifestyle. So what happens is their team will work with people to guide them on the path to becoming debt-free and support in developing a plan to financial independence. Now, once that plan is established, their team will then negotiate with creditors to lower the total amount of debt owed. And this type of support and feeling really gives a person control back into their life. They can breathe again, and they feel finally some financial and mental health freedom, which empowers them to feel free and live again.
Absolutely. So why is self-care so important during challenging times? And what are some ways that people can really practice that self-care to make sure that they are staying healthy while still trying to manage a budget and deal with the debt that maybe they're experiencing right now?
Yes, so practicing self-care, no matter what type of challenge you're facing, is really key to maintaining good mental health. And a few self-care tips can be practicing one activity that you like to do daily, and that could be anything from exercising to reading to talking to a friend that you trust. Also practicing shifting your mindset from a negative thought into a positive one. So when we talk about finances and debt, you could say to yourself, well, if you're saying I'm in debt, shifting it to a positive and saying I have a plan to get out of debt. And also one of my favorites, creating a self-care emergency kit, which you can have on handy when you need it, which can include a notepad with pen, a list of movies that you like, a stress ball, whatever you like that makes you feel good.
I really like that idea. So what are some ways people can feel supported by others while they're experiencing this debt?
So I always encourage open communication to avoid feelings of isolation. So whether it's with your partner, your spouse, your family, or friends, because when we tend to stay silent with a lot of these issues, they tend to build up internally, and that can cause further stressors when it comes to either relationships or your social life. Secondly, when debt feels insurmountable and you don't really know where to start, turn to professionals. And I think of National Debt Relief as an encouraging coach, because they really empower people to take control of their finances and help them establish sustainable habits that help them stay out of debt.
Well, a lot of good information. Where can people go if they want to get more resources like this or find out more? Can you share where they can go?
Yes, they can go to nationaldebtrelief.com or they.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 digital desk. April is Global Child Nutrition Month. May is National Allergy Awareness Month, and that includes food allergies, and that's what we're talking about right now. Each year, about 75,000 infants in the U.S. are born with a cow milk allergy. It's the most common food allergy in infancy. And so in those cases, pediatricians, oftentimes they'll recommend a material elimination diet, which deals with breastfeeding. It deals with switching to maybe a hypoallergenic formula. Let's talk more about this allergy right now with Dr. Jenna Timbo, a pediatrician. She's going to answer some big questions when it comes to infants and babies and this cow milk allergy. Good morning, Dr. Timbo. Let's talk about this allergy. How common is it?
Yeah, so it is incredibly common. It's the most common food allergy in infants. It affects approximately 75,000 infants every year in the United States. So it's out there. We got to be aware of it.
Let me ask you this. What are the signs of it? You know, there's so many people that are having babies in my work environment, newsroom here. They're constantly having babies, and so I think that's happening all over the country, of course. And I would think that they would want to know some of those first signs of an allergy like this.
Yeah, so some of the signs are fairly specific and may be easier to recognize. For example, if you're starting to introduce foods to your baby or you're supplementing with regular formula and they have an allergic reaction like hives or something of that sort, that's a little bit easier to recognize. But there's also a lot of non-specific signs or symptoms to be aware of as well. Those could include just having a really fussy baby. Your baby might be labeled as having colic. They could have blood or mucus in the stools or have symptoms of reflux. They could maybe not be gaining weight as well as they should. And those are things to be aware of as other signs of cow milk allergy. My own daughter has a cow milk allergy that was diagnosed around 4.5 months old. And before her allergic reaction, she was absolutely miserable breastfeeding. She wouldn't sleep. She was so fussy. And throughout her diagnosis, we wound up stopping breastfeeding and changing her to a hypoallergenic formula. And it changed our lives. So if you have concerns about your baby's symptoms, definitely talk with your doctor. We're happy to help. And that's why I'm partnering with Nutricia to bring Pepticate to the United States. It's a hypoallergenic formula that's been available in Europe for 30 years, and now it's an option here as well.
Okay, let's talk about how breastfeeding is involved in all this and more about that hypoallergenic formula you just showed us.
Yeah, so The hypoallergenic formula basically takes a big cow milk protein and breaks it down into much smaller pieces. So it's called an extensively hydrolyzed formula. The protein's very small, and it makes it difficult for the immune system to recognize as an allergy. So the babies then can drink it and tolerate it well without having an allergic reaction. One of the benefits of this formula in particular is that it contains lactose, which makes it taste better. So that's another issue that I went through with my own child. Is we were giving her multiple different options of formulas for babies with allergies, but she wouldn't take them because they tasted terrible. And so we felt stuck in that we were running out of options. So I'm really excited to have this as an option in the US.
How is breastfeeding involved in all this? I mean, do you recommend to some of your patients or patients' parents to breastfeed longer? How does it work?
It's really a case-by-case basis. So I would definitely recommend, if you have questions, because that's a huge decision to make, to potentially stop breastfeeding and change to a formula, definitely talk to your doctor, because we can help guide you through that on if that's the right choice to make.
How can caregivers navigate the current baby formula shortage if their child is diagnosed with a milk allergy, doctor?
So thankfully, we're in a little bit better place now than we were in 2022 with the formula shortage, with the shelves being restocked. But if you're having trouble locating a formula or a hypoallergenic formula, definitely talk to your doctor, because we can help give recommendations as far as where you could find it or what options you may have.
Okay, this is very interesting. I know we have thousands of people watching us each and every morning. I'm sure there's plenty of parents out there that are watching as well. If some parents want to get some more information about what we talked about here, cow milk allergy for infants, where can they go?
You can go to pepticate.com to learn more, or of course, talk to your doctor. We're happy to help.
All righty, Dr. Jenna Timbo, pediatrician, talking about this cow milk allergy, very common among infants. We appreciate the info, doctor. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, have you planned everything out for the summer? Because so many people have, and guess what? The numbers are showing that international travel bookings right now are up some 200%, more than 200%. It's a crazy number. People not only want to travel, they want to go international. They want to see the world. Let's bring in Megan Cooper with AAA to talk more about this number. An extraordinary number, but I have to say, Megan, my family and I this past spring break, we went to Costa Rica, and it was fabulous. Our producer Amanda Hansen's got an amazing honeymoon plan internationally. I mean, I can totally get it. People are just ready to go. What are some of the reasons?
So people are more comfortable with traveling. We've seen that trend over the last couple of years, but people are ready to go. They're ready to get out and see new places. And, we're seeing that reflected in our travel bookings. So we're up 200% on international travel bookings compared to last year. The biggest increase we've seen is in hotel bookings. That's up over 300% compared to last year. So people are comfortable, they want to get out, and they just want to see the world.
I totally get it. That is so true in the people that I interact with a lot. So let's talk about, I guess, a priority list. What are some of the guidelines, since we probably know, with thousands of people watching us right now, we are either going international or we know a friend that's going international. What are the ways to really kind of set that list, that checklist for everybody?
Right. So one of the first things that you want to do is prioritize your passport. So if you have a trip planned or you're thinking about traveling internationally and you either don't have a passport or your passport is close to expiring, go ahead and get that taken care of as soon as possible. We are seeing a little bit of a longer wait time on some of those passports. In some cases, maybe 7 to 9 weeks. And you need this to travel internationally. So first things first, if you don't have your passport taken care of and secured away, go ahead and do that right now.
Very cool. What about when it comes to packing and, my biggest fear was that, okay, our flight's going to get canceled and we're going to be, up a creek, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Right. So unfortunately, lost luggage, delayed flights, those are all things that we have to navigate now, and always have when we're traveling. So if you're traveling with other people, with a family, with a spouse, with a friend, when you're packing, maybe try to spread clothing and those items that you think that you're going to need across multiple suitcases. That way you don't have one person that has absolutely nothing while another suitcase might have made it and one person has, everything that they need. When I personally travel, I try to keep everything in a carry-on and try not to check baggage. So if at all possible, if you don't have to check that baggage, maybe try to fit everything into a carry-on. If you are checking that baggage, maybe just go ahead and put some extra identification in there. So maybe take out a big sheet of paper and write your information on it, just in case that luggage tag is lost or something happens. You want a way to get that luggage back to you if it is lost or misplaced.
You are a rarity, Megan. The women in my family, they all have to check luggage. Like I've even mentioned that. Like, hey, why don't we carry on? It'll make it better. They're like, no, what are you, crazy? We have to check luggage. So hats off to you. I'm even more impressed by you with that response.
It's taken years of practice, I will say.
I bet. That's the other fear, though, that the luggage is going to get lost. I mean, is there any way, obviously, carry on is the best way. Is there any other way to maybe mark your luggage to make sure that it doesn't get lost? Or is there something else that people can do?
Just make sure that you're checking that baggage early. Make sure that you're giving yourself plenty of time to check it in. Be mindful of how you're planning your flights. So if at all possible, try to book those early morning flights. Those have a less likelihood of being delayed. And then take a look at what destinations you're traveling through. Is it a nonstop flight? Obviously, with a nonstop flight, that's less places that your baggage has to go. So limit those in between destinations. And if at all possible, if you can't avoid those, give yourself plenty of time at those different stops. And sometimes we just can't avoid losing our luggage. Sometimes the inevitable happens, and you're that unlucky person. So that is one instance where travel insurance can really come in handy. And travel insurance does cover some of those costs of delayed flights as well as lost baggage fees.
Help me maneuver travel insurance for a second here, because I know travel insurance is a big question mark for a lot of people when they travel internationally. There's a train of thought that says, well, the travel insurance doesn't cover certain issues that are more likely to happen, so why even get it? And then there's another one that says, no, you need to get travel insurance and get the highest amount, or maybe you should get it for just specific things. Tell me where you stand, where AAA stands when it comes to travel insurance.
So with travel insurance, we always advise for people to purchase this, especially if you're traveling internationally. You're likely spending a lot of money. So we want you to protect that investment. If anything happens, if you get sick, if you can't go on that vacation, if something happens while you're on that vacation, we want you to be able to get that investment back if you at all possibly can. So with travel insurance, there are different options. So depending on what you're booking, how you're traveling, it really can be beneficial. So with those different types of travel insurance, of course, some things are covered, some things are not covered. And I think it ultimately comes down to that personal choice and how comfortable with risk that you are. But just personally, and from AAA, if you're making that investment and traveling, you really want to protect that so you're not losing out on money if something were to happen on that trip. And that's also where a travel advisor comes in very handy, because they can explain to you, what travel insurance would look like for your trip, how much you need, what that would cost. And a lot of times it's really not that expensive to add on that travel insurance policy to your trip.
Good deal. I appreciate you explaining that. Anything else you want to mention that you feel is important for some of the people, some of our viewers, thousands of which join us each and every morning, when they're traveling internationally?
I think the biggest thing this year is planning ahead. We're expecting things to be very busy. I've already heard reports this morning that we're expecting things to get even busier this summer. So if you haven't booked that international travel yet, go ahead and do that as soon as possible, especially if you're traveling this summer. But planning ahead, flexibility is key. If you are in the early planning phases of, planning an international trip, some of those ways that you can save money are being flexible, maybe, traveling in the off season, maybe traveling during the week versus on the weekend. But the biggest thing I think for travelers this year is start to plan early and book that trip early. With the demand and the interest that we've seen so far this year, that's likely to continue throughout the rest of the year. So that sweet spot of getting the trip that you want at the price that you want really is going to come from planning ahead and booking early.
Megan Cooper, who only carries on her luggage on those international flights. Megan, I really appreciate you and all that you do for us here at the Digital Desk, informing our public about the do's and don'ts when it comes to so many different things, including international travel. Thanks very much. Okay, so the question right now for Memphis and Shelby County schools, is it time to pause? Or is it time to move forward? Because Memphis Shelby County school leaders really have to answer a lot of questions when it comes to the next superintendent. There's already many calls about this troubled search. And our Kelly Cook is reporting about a special called meeting that's now been scheduled to really kind of clear up this process. Take a look.
This is the first time since 2008 that this board and the district and the community, parents, students have had an opportunity to actually go through a real, true superintendent process.
Thursday, a group of community leaders presented their community super search plan, reimagining the timeline to find the next MSCS superintendent.
Our city cannot afford, our county cannot afford to mess this moment up. Our children are already behind.
It's an accelerated timeline that includes convening the Superintendent Search Advisory Committee by April 21st, announcing finalists by April 29th, and conducting public interviews May 4th through May 9th, inviting teachers, students, and others to hear firsthand their plan for the district.
To be clear, we are not confused about what transparency means. We are not throwing that word out loosely. When we say transparency, what the community means is we want the board to abide by the policy.
The current list of finalists for the superintendent job is now down to 3 after Keith Miles Jr. withdrew his name. That leaves Carlton Jenkins, superintendent for Madison Metropolitan Schools in Wisconsin, MSCS Deputy Superintendent Angela Whitelaw, and interim superintendent Tony Williams.
And since this short time that I've been serving as superintendent, I will laugh to say the mayor has a lot of fight in him behind the scenes.
We caught up with Williams at the Fraser Exchange Club, where she joined Mayor Lee Harris in the launch of pushing for funding for a new $80 million high school in Fraser.
I just want to ask her thoughts about the whole superintendent search.
I'm sorry, she has another appointment.
She did not speak to media, but the school board does want to speak to the public, calling a special called meeting Monday. This group says they will definitely be there.
Kelly Cook reporting again. That meeting's going to take place this Monday, April 24th, 5:30 at the district headquarters. Switching gears here, I want to show you the cover of La Prensa Latina. There it is, the largest bilingual newspaper in all of Memphis and the Mid-South. And right on the cover there, American Heart Association Heart Rock and Run in Red 2023. Great stuff here. Beautiful, colorful photo. And we have Vivian is joining us, the La Prensa Latina media editor, Vivian Fernandez de Adamson. How are you, Vivian? Happy Friday.
Hi, Andrew. How are you today?
Doing well. Thank you so much. Tell me about that cover. That's really pretty.
Yes, thank you. Actually, this is happening tomorrow. Is a heart walk that is going to take place tomorrow at the University of Memphis. So this is something that we're doing to create awareness, to raise awareness about, heart diseases, that is affecting everybody, especially Hispanics in the U.S. lately. I mean, it is alarming, all the numbers that we have from the American Heart Association. So I'm going to share some of these numbers with you in a moment. And it is very important to, recognize also that this is happening because of the bad habits that we have, the things that we eat, like fast food, for instance. I know it is very easy and convenient and it's good sometimes, but most of the times, but, it's not very healthy for you either. So there's different options that we can choose from, and then to have a better lifestyle. So anyway, some of these numbers are the following. Among the U.S. Hispanic adults ages 20 and older between 2015 and 2018, 52.3% of men and 42.7% of women had cardiovascular disease. In 2019 in the U.S., cardiovascular disease caused the death of 31,864 Hispanic men and 26,820 Hispanic women of all ages. In 2019, coronary heart disease killed 15,166 Hispanic men and 10,182 Hispanic women. So this is just, very alarming, and we just have to, again, raise awareness, educate ourselves, educate others about this, and help, organizations like the American Heart Association, to, keep doing what they're doing, in raising awareness and in getting funds, for more studies, to see how they can combat these heart diseases.
Absolutely, Vivian. Let's talk now about something else that's happening tomorrow all across the country. It's Earth Day, and you have an article in here about Earth Day. Tell me more.
Yes, this is another special celebration worldwide, especially because we are celebrating Mother Earth. That's where we live, right? So, and this is something that it shouldn't be done only on April 22nd. It should be done every day, because again, this is where we live, it's our life. So there's different events that they're going to take place tomorrow here in Memphis. One of them is the one at Shelby Farms. It is the Earth Day Fun Run presented by TVA, and it's going to be from 10 in the morning until 1 o'clock. Again, it's going to be at Shelby Farms at the Promenade Trail around Hyde Lake. And, there's going to be activities for children as well, and for the whole family. So it's going to be a fun event. And also we have an e-recycling event at Saddle Creek. This is going to be from 7 until noon. And it's going to be at Saddle Creek North. It's going to be behind City Silo, the restaurant City Silo. And you can take equipments like, like electronic equipment to recycle, like computers and other equipment. You can read everything about that in our article in the paper. And well, again, it's just a commemoration and celebration of Mother Earth.
Fantastic. I love it. I love it, Vivian. Let's finally talk about Dia de la Tierra. Tell me more about that.
Dia de la Tierra, that's Earth Day in Spanish.
Ah, yes. Okay. All right. Good. I love it. You have so many colors. It's just like I'm looking at all this, and it's fantastic. Is there anything else you want to mention about La Prensa Latina? Because we're chock full of good stuff that's happening this weekend. La Prensa Latina, LaPrensaLatina.com.
Absolutely. Well, again, the Heart Walk tomorrow is going to be, like I said before, at the University of Memphis. And it starts early in the morning. So, if you haven't registered yet, I think you still have time. You can go to their website. It is www.2.heart.org. And again, it's a Mid-South Heart Walk. And you cannot miss it. It's going to be fun for the whole family as well. And then you're going to be participating and, helping others to raise awareness again.
Vivian Fernandez de Adamson, La Prensa Latina's editor, we really appreciate you coming on the Action News 5 digital desk each and every week, and your team to fill us in on what's going on across Memphis and the Mid-South. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you and take care. Thank you.
You
Bye-bye.
too. Bye-bye.
A soggy start to your Friday because of a front that is going to linger across the Mid-South for much of the day today, and it's going to keep rain in the area through at least sunset for many locations across the Mid-South. Let's show you what to expect with this system. We'll talk about the timing. As we go through the day, the early morning round of rain will finally start to weaken, but another round will push through in the afternoon. So some of this could even contain a little bit of thunderstorm activity, not expecting anything severe. Temperatures actually staying kind of cool in the 50s to low 60s. Some of the heaviest rain will fall over North Mississippi as we go through 3, 4, 5 o'clock. And then it finally exits off to the east. By 8 p.m., still some rain in West Tennessee, Northeast Mississippi, and then everybody gets to dry out heading into the overnight and some clearing by tomorrow morning, but cool temperatures in the mid 40s. So a chilly start to your Saturday. We'll see increasing clouds through the day on Saturday. By Saturday evening, the clouds will begin to thicken up quite a bit. But between this afternoon and tonight, we're talking about an additional 1 to 2 inches of rain on top of an inch or two that we've already seen in some areas of the Mid-South. Now we have some new data too for this weekend, because Saturday evening and Saturday night, this is around 7 or 7:30, there could be some other shower activity that develops and pushes through in the overnight hours. So we're not done with the rain completely, even as we head into the weekend. Most of that should exit by late Sunday morning. So we'll keep you posted throughout the weekend on the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app. Be sure and check back for updates on those rain chances. But this afternoon, pretty much everybody gets wet. If you haven't this morning yet, you will by the afternoon. Temperatures generally in the upper 50s to low to mid 60s. Tonight, mid 40s. We'll see clouds early, but it should begin to clear late. And then checking out the First Alert 7-day forecast, showers late Saturday night. Sunday looks pretty cool. Temperatures in the 40s at night, 60s during the day, unseasonably cool through next week, and maybe another chance of a shower or storm by Tuesday or Wednesday.
Okay, a pay raise could be on the way for teachers all across the state of Tennessee. Both the state, House, and Senate, they passed bills last night about this very thing. Let me see if I can find this here. Let's see, there it is. So it would make sure that teachers are making at least $50,000 a year within the next 3 school years. If signed by Tennessee Governor Bill Lee, the bill would raise the base salary for teachers from $42,000 for this upcoming school year to $50,000 by the 2026 school year. New developments in the Mikey Williams criminal case. The Tigers recruit pleading not guilty to 5 felony charges in Southern California. He was arrested last week on 5 counts of assault with a firearm. The San Diego County Sheriff's Office says a confrontation happened at Williams' home and shots were fired at a car as it was leaving. Everyone's wondering if the 5-star recruit will be in Memphis this fall. Here's Penny Hardaway talking about it for the first time.
I can't even speak on the case. Out of respect of the ongoing process of what's happening, I don't know enough to speak on it. And that's all I have to say about that. I really don't have anything else to say about it. I'm going to continue to recruit. As of right now, Mikey is still with us. And that's how I have to keep it until otherwise. So that's why I say I can't really speak on the case and what's going on, but nothing has happened thus far.
So Williams is due back in court in June on the 29th. Let's talk about Grizzlies right now. Memphis Grizzlies playing the Los Angeles Lakers best of 7 series. The games are now tied. That series tied at 1 game apiece. The series has now shifted over to the West Coast. Games 3 and games 4 will be in Los Angeles. Tomorrow night's game is game 3. That'll tip off at 9 o'clock tonight. Many people in the sports world following this game are talking about Dillon Brooks and what Dillon Brooks said about LeBron James. Now, both of them were very chatty with one another throughout Game 2 when the Grizzlies took Game 2. LeBron chatting it up to Dillon, Dillon chatting it up to LeBron. And after the game, Dylan didn't hold back, talking about LeBron's age. Take a listen.
I don't care, he's old. You know what I mean? I was waiting for that. I was expecting him to do that game 4, game 5. He wanted to say something when I got my 4th foul. He shouldn't have said that earlier on. But, you know, I poke bears. I don't respect no one until they come and give me 40. I pride myself on, you know, what I do is defense and taking on any challenge that's on the board.
Oh, he's certainly poking the bear. We'll see what happens. You know, it's mental. It's a mental game that oftentimes gets underestimated in this. Brooks certainly hit a dagger late in that game, a 3, to really kind of solidify the win for the Grizzlies there. Game 3, again, set for tomorrow night, 9 o'clock in Los Angeles. Should be fun to watch. By the way, if you want to watch this game with other Grizzlies fans, there is a Grizzlies watch party that is set up for Fourth Bluff Park. That's in downtown Memphis. That's where it's been for the last several years. The fun begins at 6 o'clock in the evening. There's going to be food trucks, the Claw Crew, and a DJ. Go Grizzlies. Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Tax day is over. Phew, that was close, all right? So we know that we like spending money as Americans, getting the latest and greatest, and the stress of tax day is now behind us. People may be tempted to get something more, maybe splurge a little bit, but hold the phone, okay? Maybe you should budget more. Maybe you should save more. What are you going to do with this tax refund if you're lucky to get one? Let's bring in someone that's going to help us with that. Stephanie O'Connell Rodriguez, a nationally recognized financial expert and author, is here at the Digital Desk to really talk about maybe some better choices of how to handle that tax refund. And Stephanie, I got to ask, what do you think is the first thing that people should do if they get a refund? Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me here. Well, according to Barclays Bank most recent consumer survey, the majority of Americans are actually hoping to use their tax refund to build their financial security. So we've got some pretty good intentions. Now it comes to how do we put those good intentions to build our financial savings, maybe pay down our debt into practice. And I think in order to do that, it's going to look different for everybody. We got to start by taking stock of our own financial picture and see what we own versus what we owe. And if we owe a lot, maybe we got to take inventory of that debt and see what we owe, to whom, monthly minimum payment, and our interest rate on each debt, so we can prioritize what it looks like to build all those minimum payments into our budget, and then make progress on making payments above the minimum payment on the debt with the highest interest rate, and make progress such that we pay off that debt and then the next highest interest rate debt and then the next, so we can get to our financial security as cost effectively as possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's not the sexiest thing to say, hey, wait, you got a big chunk of change. You can't go to Europe or the Caribbean. No, you got a budget. You got to pay off that debt, put some into savings. I mean, I think that is a great first start. Why is it, though, that so many Americans have just a hard time on saving there? Because we're supposed to have, like, what, 2 months of cash reserves just in case for emergency purposes, right?
That's right. At least 2 months in emergency savings, ideally maybe 6 months, maybe more. After the pandemic, we had people out of work for more than 6 months. So you always want to think about, you know, what's the financial security I need and the emotional security I need to get through another potential financial emergency. Now, when you're trying to figure out how to prioritize this along with your other financial goals, it's really important to make sure that you're making the most of the savings that you do have. So if you go open up a savings account at your local brick and mortar bank, oftentimes you're getting very, very low interest rates on that savings account. And we always talk about, I want to make my money work better for me. But if you're getting 0.35% interest on your savings, which is around the national average, you're really not getting a lot there. So I like to shop around with my savings like I do for anything else. And I really like online high yield savings accounts, which offer interest rates much, much higher higher than the average. Barclays, for example, has a high yield online savings account with a very high interest rate. They've got no minimum balance requirements, no monthly maintenance fees, plus the FDIC insurance. And as you mentioned, people are having a hard time building up this kind of savings, and that's because prices have been on the rise. Inflation has been the big story these last couple of years. Most recent numbers, 5% increase year over year on our cost of living. And that's not just the vacations, the exciting, sexy stuff. That's the stuff we need, like our groceries, like our housing payments. And so if you really want to build this stuff into your budget, I like to make saving, debt payoff, investing a line item on the budget, just like I do those other expenses.
I like that. That's a great idea. High yield savings accounts. And you're right. Inflation is still outrageous. I know we had something that said it's down to 5%. Well, it shouldn't be higher than 2%. It's still affecting us. Eggs are outrageous, and airfare, my gosh, flying anywhere is super high. So I know that a lot of Americans are starting to go back in debt as a result of a lot of things, including inflation. What's the best method an effective method, the most effective, to pay down debt that so many Americans are accumulating right now?
Well, the best method to pay down debt is the one you can stick with, right? So the only way to figure out what that's going to be for you is to, again, start by taking inventory of what you owe and build it into your budget as you're able. I talked about a method that's called the debt avalanche, and that's where you prioritize paying off the debt with the highest interest rate first. For some folks, it might be tackling the debt with the lowest balance first, so you can see the progress you're making, and that then motivates you to make progress on momentum toward paying off the next debt. And I know that it's more cost effective to address your highest interest rate debt first, but again, it's what is going to work for you. Even if it costs you more over the life of your loan, if you're going to stick with it, if you see the progress of knocking out that low interest rate debt first, that's fine by me. Just make sure that as you're doing that debt payoff, you also are building your emergency savings, because if something does come up and you do get an unexpected expense like a medical bill or something happens with your car or your home that you must repair, you really want to have that high yield online savings there for you so you can tap into it and not put it on a high interest rate credit card and add more to your debt.
Just curious, Stephanie, for people out there, how do you find a high yield savings account in your hometown, for example? We're in Memphis.
So typically speaking, you're going to find your high yield savings accounts online. And the reason for this is the high interest rates and the annual percentage yields that you get in those online savings accounts, you get them because they have lower costs of operating. If you don't have to maintain the brick and mortar presence, that's a lot of money saved. And that savings gets passed along to the consumer in the form of these lower fees, in the form of these higher rates. And so going to resources like banking.barclaysus.com will give you information about how you can find your high yield online savings account. And it's really easy to set this up. I have done it. It's how I saved for my wedding. It's the first account that I opened with my husband. Great way to combine finances, by the way. And it's really a great way to maximize the money that you are saving, because when you do just go to your default bank that's on the street, there's a value to that, but you don't get a lot for your money in the savings account, and often in CDs, the interest rate isn't as high as these banks that have the high yield online savings account. So I definitely suggest comparison shopping, just like you do for anything else.
This is a conversation I could have forever, and I know it's very popular among so many people. It's just, financial literacy out there. So let me ask you this. If we have thousands of people that tune in each and every morning watching us here on the Digital Desk, if you were to give like bullet points, maybe 3 bullet points for someone that's looking to have better financial success in 2023, the tax season is now over, tax day has come and gone. What would you recommend?
I think you have to take stock of your full financial picture first. A lot of the times we think we know what we're bringing in each month because we know what we make annually or hourly, but what that actually looks like after taxes, after deductions, in our take-home pay can be very different. And we want to make sure we're planning off of our reality, not off of our aspirations. And then on the flip side, we got to take stock of our expenses. You know, we talked about taking inventory of what we owe and to whom, but also this has to include those savings contributions. This has to include our essential living expenses, housing, groceries, utilities, insurance, all of that good stuff. And making sure, again, we're dealing with the reality of what we're spending, not what we think we're spending, because there can be a surprising gap between the two. And I think the third piece of this is maintaining accountability. So whatever's going to work for you to keep your finances top of mind, I like to say managing my money is a practice. It's not something I do once a year on tax day, and it's not something I do when there's a crisis, because that's just reactive money management. I want to have proactive money management. And so I think a bit like, I don't go to one yoga class and say, all right, I'm done, I'm fit for life, right? It doesn't work that way. I got to go back and I got to go back, and I get better every time I do it. Same thing happens with my money. I check my money on a daily basis. You don't have to be as much of a money nerd as I am to have a good, healthy relationship with your money, but you can certainly go ahead and make checking in on your money once a week to see where it's going, tracking your budget, keeping yourself accountable, and making sure you're maximizing it with these tools like the high yield online savings, CDs, investment accounts, so that you really get your money's worth.
I love it, Stephanie. We've talked about a lot this morning. Where can we go to get some more information, including these tips that we talked about?
Yes, so it is Financial Literacy Month. I know we talked about how important financial literacy is. So you can head to this portal at banking.barclaysus.com. Again, that's banking.barclaysus.com, and go to the resources tab. There's a lot of tools, articles, information about how to manage these money goals, how to get the most from your money, and how to prioritize when you have a lot of money goals at once.
Okay, Stephanie O'Connell Rodriguez, we really appreciate the conversation this morning. I think we helped a lot of people with this and just thoroughly enjoyed it. Thanks.
I hope so. Thank you, Andrew.
All right, college AP exams start May 1st. Do you remember taking those AP exams? You know, they really do matter. You know, a lot of people say, they don't matter. No, they do. And it's a big deal, and it's something that we should talk about with our friend David Blobom joining us on the Action News 5 digital desk. Now, we knew David way back when, but he has gone national now. He's a recognized expert in the entrance exam, college admission industries, the director of outreach for the National Test Prep Association. David, welcome back to the Action News 5 digital desk. How are you?
Thanks. Doing great. It's great to be here. And actually, Angela's segment also applies to high school students, so they definitely need to check their social media as well.
Oh yeah, Angela's fantastic, and I agree with you. Yeah, you can apply that in so many different ways. But you know, the AP exams, they start May 1st. So I've had kids that are dealing with that, and they've dealt with that in the past. What do you tell people? Because a lot of people, well, they don't matter, but they really do, don't they?
Yes, so they matter in some ways that students don't think about because they're in high school and it matters for college. So there's three main ways that AP exams help students. So if you can get AP credit in college, then you can take fewer courses in college and have an easier time, or you can potentially graduate early and save money, or you can get rid of those core requirements early and then take more advanced classes in your interests. The less important usage of them is for admissions and actually getting accepted to the schools. It's really only the top schools that look at AP exam scores like that, but that's a consideration as well. And students just need to keep in mind, they're like any other tests. Preparation is key, but they can succeed.
That is a great breakdown of why it's so important. I mean, various reasons here. Fewer courses, get to graduate early, maybe an opportunity to take some other advanced courses. No, that's great. That's great. What do parents need to know when it comes to studying for these exams? I know that the studying can be overwhelming at times for some students.
Yeah, so the best way to do that prep is hopefully they're doing it in school, but students should be taking released AP exams and seeing how they're doing on those released exams. And then, if it's AP chemistry, seeing what topics did they miss, and then just making sure that they go to their teacher at school, or they learn those topics on their own, or they enlist the help of a good tutor who will actually help them learn those topics.
Fantastic. I always enjoyed our conversations early on, David, when we talked about the SAT and the ACT, because there's so much emphasis on that, although there have been some colleges that have kind of excluded that in their admissions process, or so they say. I've asked this question before, but I think it's an important question to ask again. When it comes to your students who are getting ready for college admissions, should they take the SAT or the ACT? Which one should they take, and why should they take it?
Yeah, so there has been a lot of confusion about it. And there are some schools that are test blind, meaning they won't even look at your SAT, ACT results, even if you send them. But that's only 6% of schools in the country. 88% of schools in the country are what's called test optional, which means they're inviting you to send your SAT and ACT scores because they still care about SAT and ACT scores. And so good scores will always help a student's chances of admission, more merit aid, and scholarships. So the tests really are still advantageous, and students should take a practice exam or potentially the real exam of either, because you can pick and choose which test dates you want to send into colleges. So there's no downside to taking the real test. But once you figure out which test is the best for you, you can just keep taking that until you hit your score goal. You want to finish by November 1st of your senior year, because that's when early application deadlines for early decision and early action deadlines are for most colleges. So for the SAT, students can still take the May, June, August, and October SATs. For the ACT, they can still take the June, July, September, and October tests. So plenty of opportunities.
Should students go into it with a goal? I know with my kids, and they're past this process now. We had a goal that 30 on the ACT. That was our goal. If you can get 30 or above, we will reward you with a financial stipend. But is that a good idea? I mean, I guess you really got to know your child and what motivates them to do well, right?
So that's a fantastic idea. And there's two ways to break that down. You can look up the schools that you're applying to, and a lot of them will just have a chart of, if you get this score and have this GPA, which the GPA limits are much easier to hit. So basically, if you hit this SAT or ACT score, we're going to give you this much money per year, maybe $10,000, $15,000. So definitely look up on the school's websites, can I get money for a certain score? So that's for getting money. Then there's the admissions piece. And as far as setting a score goal for an admissions piece, I would look up all those schools again and look up their median SAT and ACT score. You want your SAT and ACT score to hit that or be above that for your scores to actually help you in admissions.
Let me ask you this. One of the last conversations we had, David, was about ChatGPT. And it's so interesting because right after we had that conversation, I saw it everywhere. Like everyone was talking about ChatGPT. So I like to say we're on the cutting edge here on the digital desk with you. How has that changed the test, if it has at all?
So speaking of the cutting edge, the last time we talked about it, it was version 3. Now, version 4 just came out a few weeks ago. It's changed everything again. And I should preface this with, I'm not encouraging students to do this because they shouldn't be doing this. But what students are doing now that version 4 is out is version 4 can almost perfectly copy the writing style of any writing that you put into it. So what students are doing is they're taking the essays of students who have been admitted to top colleges. They're inputting those essays and then saying, write my application essay in that style. And Johns Hopkins, for instance, on their website, which they should really remove, there's over 40 essays that worked. And so students can literally just put, I tried it out, and they can just put that into ChatGPT, say, write this essay for me, and in under a minute, they will get a top 1% essay. So if colleges don't adapt, they're really in trouble. They really need to do either proctored essays or interviews or do something to guarantee authentic content from their applicants.
That really sounds very scary and a big issue they need to address ASAP. You know, I would think, David, that they would kind of highlight it when it comes to, you know, the ACT or the SAT. Got to do the essay, of course, in person. But wow, for an application, I don't know how you make sure it's authentic.
I completely agree. And the SAT, unfortunately, actually discontinued its essay, and the ACT still has its essay, but no one needs to take it because colleges don't even look at it. So I really think that they need to rethink that, because right now they don't have any verified content from applicants. And to be honest, this was already a problem. I mean, you can Google, write my application essays for me, and there's a million firms that are out there to write your essays for you. Again, students should not do that, but it was always provided basically to the wealthy. The irony is ChatGPT has now allowed everyone to cheat. It's democratized cheating, which is wrong, but hopefully it will be enough to push colleges to actually fix the problem that already existed and is just much larger now.
Wow, interesting stuff. Very cutting edge as always, David. Thank you for that. What else can we talk about with regards to AP exams, SAT, ACT, that whole process that we haven't talked about already?
And one thing to put on people's radar is that next year, the SAT is changing from its current format from a 3-hour paper exam into a 2-hour digital exam. That's going to be adaptive. So it's actually a good change, but for any families who have a sophomore right now, they need to be aware that in the middle of their child's junior year, that SAT is going to completely change. So the current SAT is only going to be offered until December 2023. The next SAT that's offered is in March of 2024. Very different test. So students should not start prepping for the current SAT unless they know that they'll be done by December if they're going to be a junior next year, or they should take the ACT. So something to consider.
Dumb question. How does the 2-hour digital exam differ from what the exam is now?
It's a great question. So the math and grammar are basically the same, but it's the reading that's going to change. And instead of being, a long reading passage and then maybe 10 questions on that reading passage, students will only get one short passage and then one question on that short passage. So no more long passages. There's also just more reasoning questions and some actually cool questions. I actually think that they did a good job on the remake, but this first year of students will unfortunately be guinea pigs for the new test.
Yeah, that's wild. I always enjoy talking with you because you know what's coming and you know like where we are in terms of testing and maybe how to get an edge and what students and parents need to know about. Anything else you want to mention before we let you go, David? This has been great, very helpful.
Thank you. Just if families would like a vetted list of the best tutors, they can head to nationaltestprep.org, and we would be happy to, help you find the best tutors in your area.
Awesome, David Blobom. We really appreciate your expertise and your thoughts and all that valuable information you're sharing with so many people here in Memphis and across the Mid-South. Thanks very much.
My pleasure.
A soggy start to your Friday because of a front that is going to linger across the Mid-South for much of the day today, and it's going to keep rain in the area through at least sunset for many locations across the Mid-South. Let's show you what to expect with this system. We'll talk about the timing. As we go through the day, the early morning round of rain will finally start to weaken, but another round will push through in the afternoon. So some of this could even contain a little bit of thunderstorm activity, not expecting anything severe. Temperatures actually staying kind of cool in the 50s to low 60s. Some of the heaviest rain will fall over North Mississippi as we go through 3, 4, 5 o'clock. And then it finally exits off to the east. By 8 p.m., still some rain in West Tennessee, Northeast Mississippi, and then everybody gets to dry out heading into the overnight and some clearing by tomorrow morning, but cool temperatures in the mid 40s. So a chilly start to your Saturday. We'll see increasing clouds through the day on Saturday. By Saturday evening, the clouds will begin to thicken up quite a bit. But between this afternoon and tonight, we're talking about an additional 1 to 2 inches of rain on top of an inch or two that we've already seen in some areas of the Mid-South. Now we have some new data too for this weekend, because Saturday evening and Saturday night, this is around 7 or 7:30, there could be some other shower activity that develops and pushes through in the overnight hours. So we're not done with the rain completely, even as we head into the weekend. Most of that should exit by late Sunday morning. So we'll keep you posted throughout the weekend on the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app. Be sure and check back for updates on those rain chances. But this afternoon, pretty much everybody gets wet. If you haven't this morning yet, you will by the afternoon. Temperatures generally in the upper 50s to low to mid 60s. Tonight, mid 40s. We'll see clouds early, but it should begin to clear late. And then checking out the First Alert 7-day forecast, showers late Saturday night. Sunday looks pretty cool. Temperatures in the 40s at night, 60s during the day, unseasonably cool through next week, and maybe another chance of a shower or storm by Tuesday or Wednesday.
Are you in the market for a new ride? You know, either a new car, a used car. Of course, that'll be new for you. Well, the car buying game has changed dramatically. Shoppers, a lot of times, they can go online, they can do their research, look at various buying tools to their advantage. That can lead to better deals, smarter buying decisions, higher satisfaction in the long run. So let's get some expert advice on how to navigate the car buying process. I'm joined now on the Action News 5 digital desk by Motor Trend editor Duncan Brady, who's live with us. And I can tell that you have a couple of cars there, Duncan. Good morning. Tell us about your top tips for buying a car right now.
Hey, Andrew. Good morning. Thanks for having me. So if we have one tip, it's that you got to do your research. You know, you want to be the expert when you walk into that dealership. And as you mentioned, folks who use online tools like the Buyer's Guide, who become the expert, they're the ones who get better deals, who have higher long-term satisfaction.
I see you have a couple of cars there. Tell us about the cars that you're right now in the middle of.
We do. So we have an ultimate ranking system here at Motor Trend, and these are two of our favorite vehicles. The Kia Telluride you see here, this is our favorite 3-row family SUV. It was our SUV of the year a few years back, and this year brings a mid-cycle refresh. So tweaks to the already excellent styling, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with. There's new tech inside, plus you get a couple off-road variants, including the X-Pro on your screen right now. Did you know this Kia has 14 interior upholstery options? That's bananas. That's Bentley stuff. It's easy to see, especially considering that the base model has the big screen, has Apple CarPlay, has adaptive cruise control. Easy to see why this is our favorite 3-row SUV. And then, of course, we have the Volvo XC40 Recharge, one of our favorite electric compact luxury SUVs. I said electric, there's no engine under there, motors and batteries. And this Volvo is really quick. I was giggling the first time I drove it. It's quicker than some Mustangs and Camaros, but it's a Volvo, right? These are the folks who brought us the 3-point safety belt back in 1959. So it's really safe. It has all of the driver assist active safety features features you want, but it's also very crash worthy. It gets great crash test ratings. It's a 2022 IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus. You're seeing the interior right now. It's pretty luxurious. We have a Google-based infotainment and navigation system. There's Apple CarPlay. The car we have in studio right now has a really handsome vegan tailored wool upholstery option. You know, I'm a big fan of this Volvo.
Hey, Duncan, what's the MSRPs on both of those vehicles? They, of course, look very nice.
Good question. I'm not exactly sure. I believe the Kia is somewhere in that $45,000 range, and the Volvo might be closer to $60,000.
Okay, so, you know, the last year we were dealing with a lot of supply chain issues with cars to the point where people were going for used cars, and used cars were more expensive in certain situations than the new cars. Is that supply chain issue with all the computer chips, has that been resolved now?
Getting better, yes. Dealers have a lot more inventory than they had a few years ago, and we're not dealing with the same level of chip shortage that we had in years past.
Okay, so I know you are an editor for Motor Trend. They put out all kinds of publications year-round, including the Buyer's Guide. Tell me how it enhances someone who's in the market for a new ride.
So we talked about doing your research earlier. The Buyer's Guide is our research headquarters. We have 3 outstanding tools plus vehicle overview pages on literally every car on sale. We have a great team here in El Segundo, and I want to talk about those tools. So we have Car Match. That's the closest you can get to giving me a call and asking for personalized buying advice. Really, these are the same questions I'd ask my mom, my dad, if their name popped up on my phone. You know, you answer those questions, you see, and we give you a few recommendations. The whole process takes about 30 seconds. I mentioned Ultimate Car Rankings. We rank nearly every car on sale, cars, trucks, SUVs, in over 45 segments. So, you know, if you want to see what's best in some automotive segment, we have the answers for you there. And it's all backed by Motor Trend's testing expertise and the features, safety, fuel economy that buyers want to know about. Once you narrow it down, have a few options, Car Compare will save you a bunch of time. Instead of going to dealership websites, sifting through all that sales nonsense, you can see the pricing, the fuel economy, all the specs right there in one place.
Let me ask you this, Duncan. We have thousands of people that watch us on the digital desk each and every morning. And if someone is thinking, you know, I probably by the end of this year need to start looking for a new vehicle, where would you tell them to start? I mean, give me, like, if you would, maybe 3 bullet points. What should they do?
Sure. So you probably already know your budget, right? But then you want to think about, what kind of car do I need? Do I need a bunch of cargo space? Do I need off-road capability? Then you'll go for an SUV. But if you prioritize, say, fuel economy and driving dynamics, then you'd go for something like a hatchback or sedan. But again, you just got to do the research. We're the ones who get the chance and have the privilege to drive all of the cars on sale, more or less. And I really trust the folks on staff here to give strong recommendations and make sure folks buy the right car.
Okay, Motor Trend editor Duncan Brady, we really appreciate your time this morning. Thanks for the insight, the info, and take care of yourself, man.
Thanks for having me. All the good stuff is at motortrend.com/cars.
A couple of days, thousands of people expected to attend a concert at a popular facility for the first time since it closed back in the fall of 2019. Whether you were a frequent visitor to the venue or perhaps it's your first time, you're going to notice some major changes at the Bank Plus Amphitheater at Snowden Grove. Kim Clark has a preview.
Workers put the finishing touch on renovations at the Bank Plus Amphitheater at Snowden Grove, just off Getwell in South Haven, Mississippi. Work that began in late 2020.
It was very different than what you see behind us. Only the green seats were here previously.
Todd Bastry is executive director of the Landers Center and the Bank Plus Amphitheater, which originally opened in 2006 as the Snowden Grove Amphitheater. Bastry is also overseer of all the current changes at the amphitheater, which included adding gray seats in what used to be the lawn area for more casual seating.
We found from doing our research around the country and here regionally that amphitheaters had moved more to a more permanent seating and less lawn.
The change gives the amphitheater now roughly 8,500 permanent seats, 10,500 if you count the pit area and what's left of lawn seating.
We also added a number of premium experiences. There's 3 different levels to our premium experience. Each one of them have access to the brand new Premium Lounge, which is a restaurant quality indoor facility.
The Premium Lounge is also now air conditioned.
So when it's the middle of August, you've got an opportunity there to go inside, get something to eat or drink, and take a little break from the weather.
According to Mastery, the changes were not only about seating, but also about increasing the guest experience in general.
But we doubled the restrooms here, which is important to everyone. Previously, there were 0 permanent concession stands. So we added in a huge commissary and then 3 other concession stands surrounding.
Another major improvement, the entrance and exits for concert goers.
There's 1 main entrance. Now we have 3 entrances into the amphitheater.
In addition to the Snowden Lane entrance, there's now one off Getwell and Nail Road. There's also an added benefit for the bands that perform on stage.
They had to step off property to have their catering. We now have a catering area specifically for the artists, and I know they'll be happy about that.
According to Mastery, the changes at the amphitheater mirror what's happening nearby.
Everything around us is continuing to grow with the ballparks, the soccer area, Silas Square across the street. There's now so much to do. So when you come, you're headed here, could be at 3 o'clock in the afternoon for a Saturday show, to spend some time taking in the sights and sounds, getting something to eat, getting something to drink, checking out retail stores, then coming over here, taking in a show. Maybe you're letting the traffic get out and you're going to have something to eat before you head home.
Tickets for 9 shows are already on sale, and one of the first bands includes a hometown favorite.
Ingram Hills lead singer is Justin Moore, who is a local kid from here from the Mid-South. He previously worked here before. Ingram Hills, a local band. It just kind of a full circle.
Tickets for a 10th show at the Bank Plus Amphitheater will go on sale in May.
Right now, the season looks to finish potentially with the Goo Goo Dolls in September, but we do have more that we're going to announce. We're going to have more shows coming. Again, everything that we've done here really is to enhance the guest experience. The music, the sound that was here has always been very good. We wanted to make sure that everything outside of that was just as good as the sound and the bands that everyone was hearing.
The Bank Plus Amphitheater at Snowden Grove, growing with its South Haven neighbors and making guests feel more at home. In South Haven, Kim Clark, Action News 5.
Friendly reminder that Lizzo's concert's been moved back at FedEx Forum. It was set to be on Wednesday, April 26th. It's now on Monday, just a few days, April 24th. All tickets for the original date will be honored. And then, of course, a few days after that, Janet Jackson will be at FedEx Forum as well. That is on April 29th. Tickets are still available. They range from about $17 all the way to $3,000. And then, of course, you have Alicia Keys with a stop here July 5th at FedEx Forum. Tickets go on sale for everyone. They went on sale about an hour ago at Ticketmaster.com. Law enforcement officers from around the Mid-South rode into South Haven for a little competition for a good cause. It was the Mid-South Motor Cops Rodeo. It features motorcycle competitions, night riding, speed run challenge. It was all about the speed run here, where riders bob and weave through various cones. 49 officers participated in honor of fallen Memphis police officer Scotty Triplett, who died back in 2021.
He would make fun of me because he would probably have gone faster than I had. But that's just Scotty, and we love the fun and the jokes about him.
All this that you see here, that could be a car or a pedestrian just walk out in the middle of traffic, and we try to stay on top of that.
Yeah, this year's rodeo hosted by the DeSoto County Sheriff's Office. Okay, the Memphis Police Department has a new group of spiritual servant leaders specifically trained to support police officers and connect them to the community. Joyce Peterson has more about this year's Clergy Police Academy, graduating its largest class in MPD history.
Right now, our community needs hope.
Memphis Police Chief C.J. Davis believes the power of prayer can lift up a community traumatized by crime.
You've heard of dope dealers. We need hope dealers. We all need to be hope dealers.
59 members of the Memphis faith-based community graduated Thursday night from the MPD's Clergy Academy, a 5-week in-person training session on policing.
Ministry is defined by help, and so I want to be able to help our police department by giving them the support they need emotionally, spiritually, so they can continue to do the great job they do here in Memphis.
Because there's so much chaos in our city, so much division in our city, and we need people to get involved, especially spiritual people, to get involved and help and show support, show love where there is hate.
With tonight's graduating class, there are now 558 clergy partnered with MPD to help engage and educate their congregations.
So we can bridge the gap with the community and the police and try to get their trust back with the police and let them know that all is not bad.
Not only just talking about what's going on in the city, but actually doing something about it, being really proactive about it.
High crime, the death of Tyree Nichols. 4 officers lost or injured in shootings this year. God, say these graduates, can guide Memphis through this storm. The theme of the graduation ceremony? Better days are coming. And the top cop in Memphis is a believer.
If we mobilize people who are like-minded, who want good for our community and partner with us to prevent crime and really, touch some of our young people before they get into a world of crime, then it's a plus for everybody.
All right, well, graduation season is upon us, and whether it's high school graduation and maybe wanting to further your education or enter the workforce, or college graduates accepting a new job, financial decisions can be so stressful, and just trying to navigate through that can be very difficult. So joining us to talk a little bit more about it is Ashley Feinstein-Gersley. She's the author of Financial Adulting, Everything You Need to Know to Be a Financially Confident and Conscious Adult. Ashley, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on.
So I guess the first thing I want to do is just dive right in. Let's talk about maybe what are some of the biggest mistakes or things that these young adults, whether it's 18 into your early 20s, where maybe they're making mistakes financially. What would you say is probably some of the biggest problems or things that they just don't know about?
Yes, I'd say 2 big things. The first, and I did both of these things, so it's coming from experience, is to wait to save until we have enough money to save. So there's this idea, and how we traditionally view saving is we earn money, we live our lives, we pay everybody else, and then we hope and wait that there will be money left over to save. And in my experience, that just doesn't work for most people. Even when we get a raise, there's still not money. So I would say pay ourselves first, pay yourself first is something that I would highly, highly recommend. And then the other is not having a plan. And I know that budgets get a bad rap. We think they might be restricting, they might limit our fun, but I view them as an act of self-love, because when we have a budget, we have a plan, we have peace of mind, we can build in things that are fun and have no guilt as we spend them, and just have clarity about where our money is going and reach our financial goals. So I would say not having a plan and waiting to save until we make more money are the 2 biggest mistakes that I see.
And when you talk about saving, is there a certain rule of thumb when you say you want to maybe save back this percentage of the money you're bringing in, or does it just depend on each individual's budget and what kind of money they're bringing in? What advice would you have for that?
Yes, so I would say it does depend. I'm not a big fan of having a certain percentage as far as saving and investing and retirement, but I would say first and foremost, you want to have that crisis fund saved up. So that first $1,000, that first 1 month of expenses, and then from there building up to have a fully funded rainy day fund. So in case something happens with an illness or with our job, that we have money to pay for our expenses for 3 months, 6 months, depending on your personal situation.
And this is just a question for me, because I think way back, back in the day, a lot of people would have their checkbook and they would go in, and every time they would write a check, they would go in, they'd balance their checkbook. They had an idea of the money that was coming in, coming out. Do you feel like that now people really aren't using that checkbook and it's harder to maybe keep up with the money you're spending? Do you feel like that?
Yeah, I think technology has done some great things, but it makes it very easy to have no idea where our money is going. Even if you think about checkbooks are a great example, credit cards, we don't feel the pain of what we spent until the bill goes through. Swiping our credit card, hopping in and out of a Lyft, we're not even really paying. So I think I'm a huge fan of having what I call money parties, which are time that we set aside to look at what's happened with our money over the last month or the last week. So actually go through and look at those expenses, because it is so easy to lose track of them. And I've had that experience where you see the credit card bill and you say, that wasn't me, but then you go through each and every expense and you realize, these things just add up. So having that time, if we don't look at our expenses, it's just not going to happen. And we need to carve out that time for ourselves.
Do you feel like that generation, you just get out of high school or you're coming out of college, that little group right there, a lot of times they're finally getting out of the house, they're starting to support themselves. Do you think that some of the biggest mistakes start off with credit cards, and maybe every time you go to a store and they say, well, you get 20% off if you apply for a credit card? Do you feel like that this generation can sometimes fall victim to that when it comes to credit cards? What are some of the biggest mistakes?
Yes. So I actually was one of the people who had that happen to me, and I didn't even understand how credit cards worked. I remember by the time I paid my bill, I had so many late fees. And so I do think there's this idea that it actually is something that I wish I knew when I graduated from school, that most people, we don't learn about this. And I'm seeing it more and more being taught in schools, which is wonderful. And I know parents want to be sharing this information with their kids, but they might not feel like they're equipped to do so. And so I do think there's this feeling when we graduate that we're the only ones who don't understand, and there can feel this like taboo of talking about it and asking questions. And what I've found is that most of us don't understand, and we're all learning as we go, and we're learning the hard way. And so I do think that helps to feel less alone as we navigate this. But then also, yes, to really, I think there's a lot working against us when it comes to personal finance, and that we're not educated about it. There's like with the credit card, there's probably 50 pages of small print that I could have read to understand it. So I would definitely caution to really understand any financial products that we sign up for. Talk to people about it, because if they don't understand and you don't understand, you might be able to find someone else, or to go and figure it out together can feel less lonely as we navigate this.
I remember when I was in college, starting in college, credit card companies, they actually would set up booths on campus, and you would end up getting a credit card, and it would have this incredibly high interest rate, but you weren't educated on what to even look for, what to consider. So I mean, I can see how credit cards can really get people into trouble. I do want to switch gears though. Student loans. When a lot of people rely on student loans to be able to go to school, what kind of advice would you give when people start looking to see how much they need to be borrowing? Because they do have to pay that back at some point.
Yes, so when we're going to, there's actually a chapter in the book dedicated to debt. So understanding credit cards, understanding student loans, and I think when we think about financing college, there are a lot of pieces that fund the pie. So there could be grants, there could be financial aid, there could be federal loans, there could be private loans. But at the beginning, when we're trying to figure out how much to take out, ideally we can minimize that pie. And in interviewing some experts on student loans for the book, I found that people actually can negotiate with their universities on what they're able to help them provide. In the worst case, that they say no, but then you're able to take out less debt, and then also to shop around with those private loans, just because we might think that that first offer we get is the best offer that we're going to get, but actually the offers can vary as far as interest rates. And when we're talking about numbers that are that big, it can make a huge difference if we're paying a 6% interest rate or an 8% interest rate or a 4% interest rate on our student loan. So I would say try to reduce the amount as much as possible, and then shop around for the best rate on those private loans.
Good advice. Now, for those that are maybe graduating college, they're getting into the workforce, what are the biggest pieces of advice that you would want to send to them as far as their finances go?
I'd say the biggest, so first, again, just you're not alone in figuring this out. And financial adulting, so that is the name of my new book. Being a financial adult is about taking small, consistent steps. And so I think sometimes with a lot of different goals, but specifically our finances, we view improving in that area that it has to be this overnight transformation, that I wake up, I spend the whole weekend making my financial plan, and I'm a new person. But that sets us up for failure because it's too much of a jump. And so taking small, consistent steps that are manageable, that feel like we can keep improving, I think is the way to go, because then we're improving and learning all year round. And then something that I wished that I did more of, and I know that so many looking back at the beginning of their careers wish they did, is start saving for retirement. Because when we're starting young, we have so much time to allow our money to grow and compound, and it just makes it so much easier on us later. And that money is coming out pre-tax, typically when it's a 401k, so it actually feels less painful than you'd expect. So I'd say, looking back, that's something that a lot of people that I talk to wish they put more aside for retirement and let it grow for them.
And we've talked so much here at the Digital Desk about debt and what debt can do as far as your mental health and various other things that it can do. Do you feel, I love the name of the financial adulting. I love that. But do you feel like that one reason you decided to put this book together is because a lot of times people build up that debt while they're young, and then after they get out of college, they've built up all this debt as they're starting their new job. Do you feel like a lot of that debt ends up getting built up early on in life, and then you're just spending time trying to pay it back?
Definitely is a big part of stress in the younger generation, and something you mentioned about the booths during college and getting a free t-shirt and having, understanding that when we're paying that minimum payment, it isn't actually potentially making any dent in the balance, and our credit card could still be growing. So there's so much there. And I do think there's so much shame. First of all, there's a lot of stress around debt, especially when we're starting our careers and we might not have a lot of extra income to go towards those debt payments, but then also just the shame that comes with debt. And so I first love to talk, in the book I talk about what debt is, and it's really just money we owe for something we bought. It doesn't mean we're bad or that we did something wrong, or it could be a certain time in our life, it could be a mistake we made. But from there, really, I think sometimes when we have so much shame around the debt, it has us even not look at it. So I take everyone through a 3-step process to make a plan to manage and pay down debt by starting with looking at what it actually is. And that can be as stressful as that sounds to list out all that information. It can be really eye-opening. And then once we know what's happening, we can make a plan to manage it. So always better to have that information than to not look.
And educating yourself about what you need to know is so important. And you were mentioning about paying that minimum. I had a friend that during that age time between 18, early 20s, she got a bunch of credit cards and she told me, she's like, just pay the minimum payment. And I'm like, this is terrible advice. I guess any final points you want to make before we let you go?
I go back to that taking small, consistent steps. And you mentioned earlier why I wrote this book. And because so many of the things that you're mentioning are things that I made mistakes with. And I studied finance, I worked in finance, and I still knew nothing about my own finances. And so this is something that we are not set up for. So we want to learn as much as we can. And my goal is, in writing this book and in the work I do, that others don't have to make the same mistakes that I did and can progress through their financial lives with a lot less stress and potentially heartache.
Well, Ashley Feinstein Gerstley, the author of Financial Adulting, Everything You Need to Know to Be a Financially Confident and Conscious Adult. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing some really great advice and some really good tips for our viewers this morning.
Thank you for having me.
A soggy start to your Friday because of a front that is going to linger across the Mid-South for much of the day today, and it's going to keep rain in the area through at least sunset for many locations across the Mid-South. Let's show you what to expect with this system. We'll talk about the timing as we go through the day. The early morning round of rain will finally start to weaken, but another round will push through in the afternoon. So some of this could even contain a little bit of thunderstorm activity, not expecting anything severe. Temperatures actually staying kind of cool in the 50s to low 60s. Some of the heaviest rain will fall over North Mississippi as we go through 3, 4, 5 o'clock. And then it finally exits off to the east. By 8 p.m., still some rain in West Tennessee, Northeast Mississippi, and then everybody gets to dry out heading into the overnight and some clearing by tomorrow morning, but cool temperatures in the mid 40s. So a chilly start to your Saturday. We'll see increasing clouds through the day on Saturday. By Saturday evening, the clouds will begin to thicken up quite a bit. But between this afternoon and tonight, we're talking about an additional 1 to 2 inches of rain on top of an inch or two that we've already seen in some areas of the Mid-South. Now we have some new data too for this weekend, because Saturday evening and Saturday night, this is around 7 or 7:30, there could be some other shower activity that develops and pushes through in the overnight hours. So we're not done with the rain completely, even as we head into the weekend. Most of that should exit by late Sunday morning. So we'll keep you posted throughout the weekend on the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app. Be sure and check back for updates on those rain chances. But this afternoon, pretty much everybody gets wet. If you haven't this morning yet, you will by the afternoon. Temperatures generally in the upper 50s to low to mid 60s. Tonight, mid 40s. We'll see clouds early, but it should begin to clear late. And then checking out the First Alert 7-day forecast, showers late Saturday night. Sunday looks pretty cool. Temperatures in the 40s at night, 60s during the day, unseasonably cool through next week, and maybe another chance of a shower or storm by Tuesday or Wednesday.
All right, take a look at the latest edition of the Commercial Appeal there. This is this month's Memphis Magazine. I'm sorry, Commercial Appeal. I mean Memphis Magazine. What am I talking about? Memphis Magazine, is it Friday yet? Almost. This is it, FedEx at 50, because it turns 50 on Monday. And there is a picture of President and CEO Raj Subramaniam, yes. And there is an exclusive interview with Raj to talk all things FedEx as it turns 50 on Monday. The author of that article, John W. Sparks, joining us right now on the Action News 5 digital desk. And John, before we get into that cover story, I gotta ask you a question. Are you the same John W. Sparks that's been in dozens of films like Santa Claus and other characters?
I don't know how you came to that conclusion, but yes, I will confess to that.
I knew it. You've been in like 40 films. That's incredible. So my producer Amanda Hansen and I were kind of going through different things. And of course, we've talked before on the digital desk, but then it was like you came up on the International Movie Database. How long has your career been? I mean, you've spanned all these different movies. How'd you get into it?
I have been doing this for a number of years. It happened here in Memphis when I was doing some entertainment coverage of the local film scene. And I did a profile of Red West, who was Elvis's best friend and went on to have his own film career. So I did a feature story on him when he was filming something here back about, 15, maybe close to 20 years ago. And I said, well, this is interesting. Maybe I should take some acting lessons, because I know I have a natural ham element to it. And it just grew from there.
I love it. I love it. So everybody who's watching, check out John W. Sparks you can look at his films on International Movie Database and really kind of check it out. It's I initially thought that you would just play Santa Claus, but you play all these other things too. In addition
I've
to
played
Santa Claus.
Assassins and bankers and psychiatrists.
Yeah.
And,
I know, reporter too.
Once in a while, I get to do that.
All right, excellent. Well, I'm glad that you've helped us solve the mystery. Again, let's talk about this FedEx at 50. Monday, April 17th, that's when FedEx turns 50 years old. And you talk with the president and CEO, Raj Subramaniam there. In his first year as president and CEO, it has been, let's just say, a bumpy year for FedEx. They've had some layoffs. They've had some tough numbers to deal with. What was the mood of that interview that you did with him? Because I've met Raj a few times. Great, personable guy, really nice, super friendly. But of course, with some tough economic news, that can hit anybody pretty hard.
It was a tough year last year, and actually the time coming up before that was pretty rough. But it was the time before that, too, that Raj had been with the company for over 30 years. And he's been on a steady track going up. He's worked in Hong Kong and in Toronto, so he has a very keen and complete sense of the international implications of the company. And it was quite clear that he was being groomed to be CEO and president. So I think there are not often very many surprises when it comes to FedEx. And they knew that difficult times were happening. Last September, they had a quarterly report, and the stock dived further than it ever had before in the company's history. But Subramaniam also has a very good sense of what needs to be done. There's a very good sense of cool competence to what is going on there. And he said, well, yes, we're having difficult times, and this is why. The demand was down for packages. Inflation was certainly taking a toll. Pandemic wrecked it for everybody. But they had carefully planned and said, well, we're going to do whatever it takes to get back to the top of the game. They have been doing that. A lot of it is $3 to $4 billion worth of cuts that they have been and will continue to make. A lot of that, as you mentioned, were some layoffs. Recently, they announced that they were consolidating the operations of their major divisions. That will be a key part to it as well. So I think Subramaniam came into this prepared, knew what the bad news was going to be, and knew the proper way to respond to it. And in fact, the market, after it took that huge dive in September, has come back up to about where it was at that time since then. So there is a pretty clear sense that he has an idea of where he wants to take this company.
Yeah, and I've seen him on CNBC. I mean, you see him on all the business channels, you know, because so FedEx goes the economy. And another saying is, so FedEx goes, so does Memphis. I mean, so many Memphians are connected either directly or indirectly with the vitality of FedEx. And what's great about the article, John, is it really goes in depth on FedEx, both past, present, future. You ask what FedEx is going to be like in 50 years. And I don't want to give too much away of what the article, the contents of that article, but you know, did you, as a Memphian, as a Mid-Southerner, did you come away from this interview thinking that, hey, look, this is a bump in the road, FedEx is going to be just fine, or did you come away from it as saying, you know, this is a bump in the road, and there's going to be several bumps that may take a while before it gets better?
I had a feeling that they at least have insight into what is going on in the world. In fact, he speaks to that, saying that one of their strengths is that every day they do their deliveries, and every day they get a little bit of an advance look at what is going on in the world. And they are parlaying that knowledge into how they operate the company. So this bump in the road, it's been like a series of bumps, really, and they've addressed all of them, I think, pretty well. And I believe that they will continue because they're very much about very much about innovation as well. You can't really be an innovative company unless you are watching what's going on around you. And Raj seems to be very talented at doing that. And of course, Fred Smith, the founder of FedEx, is still on the board. He still has his hand in things, helping guide the overall vision of the company. So I have a feeling that they're feeling quite confident about the direction.
I know that anytime I cover a story, you know, that it's fit into usually a minute 30, or you know, maybe I'll get 2 minutes on a piece. And I know when writers do a story, it's fit into however many amounts of words. Is there something that you could share with us that perhaps didn't make it in the magazine that you thought was interesting? Maybe his demeanor, maybe something that, we don't know about. I mean, we know Raj is a capable guy. He's been with the company like 30 years plus, worked closely with FedEx founder Fred Smith. Anything else you can tell us about him?
I think that he's so professional at this, and he always keeps his cards close to his chest. And this recent consolidation of the operations of the various divisions, we did not have that in the story that we wrote because they announced it afterwards. However, if you read what he's got to say, he talks very much about collaboration, and he means that in a very broad sense. This is an illustration of that. If you read the tea leaves of what he was saying, the idea of getting these operating divisions together will streamline things. It will cut costs, which is a top priority. And so I think that that's something that they're very good at is seeing what's coming. They don't spill.
I get it. I totally get it. Again, this is Memphis Magazine's current edition, the April edition of the magazine here. FedEx at 50 yesterday, today, tomorrow. An exclusive interview with Raj Subramaniam, the president and CEO of FedEx, and the man who wrote the article, John W. Sparks, someone who has been in like 40 films. When's your next film, John? When can we check it out?
Oh, I can't talk about it, but it'll be coming out. Yes.
That is awesome. John W. Sparks, appreciate it. Always a great conversation. Thanks for talking about not only your movie career, but also a great piece, the cover story of the Memphis Magazine. Take care.
Thank you. You too.
Home sellers nationwide are coming off a record-breaking run that led to some of the lowest mortgage rates of all time, combined with some of the highest home prices they've ever seen. But 2023, a much different story. The U.S. housing market has been on a steady 12-month decline, resulting in some dropping home values, dramatically rising interest rates. What is the current state of real estate right now? Let's bring in Ryan Rogers. He's a real estate specialist out of Austin, Texas. He joins us on the digital desk. Ryan, give us the current state of real estate with regards to buyers and sellers. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me. So what I would tell them for buyers specifically is even though rates still may be up a little bit, prices still have come down or starting to flatten. So a year ago, if you were having to overpay, especially in our market, let's say $150,000 on a specific piece of property, and even though the rate was maybe 3.5%, you're maybe paying $150,000 less for that property today, but the rate is of course higher. So it all balances out in many situations. But all across the nation, we're still seeing, decreased buyer activity, and in many markets also increased seller activity. So it's different from market to market for sure.
So I'm still trying to understand exactly what, as a buyer and a seller, what you should do first and foremost if you're in the market right now.
So if you're in the market right now as a buyer, I would focus on a couple of things. Is you want to get pre-approved and understand what you're going to be, what your payment is going to be. Do that first, because that's number one, to have your ducks in a row, have your financing in order, and be ready to pull the trigger if you do have one, if you do see something that you like. I always recommend a buyer maybe go and look for a house that's been on the market for a while, maybe 30 days or 60 days, because in this market, no matter where you are, properties that have been on the market 30, 60, 90 days, you have a much better opportunity to get a better price because they've already been able to expose themselves to the marketplace and find out, are they overpriced? And so for the buyer, they can be they can be at a more advantage. It's been on the market 30, 60, 90 days. And go maybe look at those first instead of ones that have been on the market just a year or two, because it will be a more competitive situation. For sellers, my number one advice for sellers is don't price the house too high coming out of the gate. You want to price it very aggressively so that you get as many people through the property as quickly as possible. So be realistic when you set that value in today's market. Another thing that a seller needs to be aware of or ready for is if you have a good buyer with a reasonable offer, and they tend to hesitate a little bit, one thing that you can do is offer a rate buy down. So offering some closing cost assistance to maybe help them, instead of a 6.5% interest rate, maybe they can buy that rate down to maybe about 6%, let's say. And then the last thing for sellers is don't test the market by starting high and then continuing to decrease the price, because it'll get stale and it's not a good strategy.
Ryan Rogers, real estate specialist out of Austin, Texas. We appreciate the points, the finer points here, and some tips out there for buyers and sellers. Thanks very much. Okay, 10:48 is the time right now, and the Action News 5 digital desk. We continue to follow some breaking news here. I want to show you a live look from our TDOT SmartWay cameras of this wreck that's been a part of the morning commute since about 5 o'clock this morning. This is a live picture. It is now approaching 11 o'clock, and it's still very much an issue. This wreck here is the off-ramp, I-40 in Chelsea. And as a result of this wreck that you see right here with the slow-going trucks and traffic, look at the backup here. Again, this is I-40 at Chelsea. You can see the backup here. This is a camera from I-40 at Watkins. And it's been like this for the better part of well, almost 6 hours now. What we understand is that the Memphis Police Department shut down all westbound lanes early this morning, and they're going to remain closed for quite a bit of time. MPD advising people to use an alternative route there. But again, some live pictures. That is the issue there, that semi that's looks like a jackknife or so. But again, it is slow going on Interstate 40 westbound here near the Chelsea and Watkins area, and traffic is an absolute mess. If you can avoid this area, again, this is State Route 300 at I-40 where this wreck actually occurred, and this is just showing you the backup westbound I-40 at Chelsea. Okay, have you planned everything out for the summer? Because so many people have, and guess what? The numbers are showing that international travel bookings right now are up some 200%, more than 200%. It's a crazy number. People not only want to travel, they want to go international. They want to see the world. Let's bring in Megan Cooper with AAA to talk more about this number. An extraordinary number, but I have to say, Megan, my family and I this past spring break, we went to Costa Rica, and it was fabulous. Our producer Amanda Hansen's got an amazing honeymoon plan internationally. I mean, I can totally get it. People are just ready to go. What are some of the reasons?
So people are more comfortable with traveling. So, we've seen that trend over the last couple of years, but people are ready to go. They're ready to get out and see new places. And, we're seeing that reflected in our travel bookings. So we're up 200% on international travel bookings compared to last year. The biggest increase we've seen is in hotel bookings. That's up over 300% compared to last year. So people are comfortable, they want to get out, and they just want to see the world.
I totally get it. That is so true in the people that I interact with a lot. So let's talk about, I guess, a priority list. What are some of the guidelines, since we probably know, with thousands of people watching us right now, we are either going international or we know a friend that's going international. What are the ways to really kind of set that list, that checklist for everybody?
Right. So one of the first things that you want to do is prioritize your passport. So if you have a trip planned or you're thinking about traveling internationally and you either don't have a passport or your passport is close to expiring, go ahead and get that taken care of as soon as possible. We are seeing a little bit of a longer wait time on some of those passports. In some cases, maybe 7 to 9 weeks. And you need this to travel internationally. So first things first, if you don't have your passport taken care of and secured away, go ahead and do that right now.
Very cool. What about when it comes to packing and, my biggest fear was that, okay, our flight's going to get canceled and we're going to be, up a creek, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Right. So unfortunately, lost luggage, delayed flights, those are all things that we have to navigate now and always have when we're traveling. So if you're traveling with other people, with a family, with a spouse, with a friend, when you're packing, maybe try to spread clothing and those items that you think that you're going to need across multiple suitcases.
You are
that
busy.
way you don't have one person that has absolutely nothing while, another suitcase might have made it and one person has everything that they need. When I personally travel, I try to keep everything in a carry-on and try not to check baggage. So if at all possible, if you don't have to check that baggage, maybe try to fit everything into a carry-on. If you are checking that baggage, maybe just go ahead and put some extra identification in there. So maybe take out a big sheet of paper and write your information on it, just in case that luggage tag is lost or something happens. You want a way to get that luggage back to you if it is lost or misplaced.
You are a rarity, Megan. The women in my family, they all have to check luggage. Like I've even mentioned that. Like, hey, why don't we carry on? It'll make it better. They're like, no, what are you, crazy? We have to check luggage. So hats off to you. I'm even more impressed by you with that response.
It's taken years of practice, I will say.
I bet. That's the other fear, though, that the luggage is going to get lost. I mean, is there any way? Obviously, carry on is the best way. Is there any other way to maybe mark your luggage to make sure that it doesn't get lost, or is there something else that people can do?
Just make sure that you're checking that baggage early. Make sure that you're giving yourself plenty of time to check it in. Be mindful of how you're planning your flights. So if at all possible, try to book those early morning flights. Those have a less likelihood of being delayed. And then take a look at what destinations you're traveling through. Is it a nonstop flight? Obviously, with a nonstop flight, that's less places that your baggage has to go. So limit those in between destinations. And if at all possible, if you can't avoid those, give yourself plenty of time at those different stops. And sometimes we just can't avoid losing our luggage. Sometimes the inevitable happens, and you're that unlucky person. So that is one instance where travel insurance can really come in handy. And travel insurance does cover some of those costs of delayed flights as well as lost baggage fees.
Help me maneuver travel insurance for a second here, because I know travel insurance is a big question mark for a lot of people when they travel internationally. There's a train of thought that says, well, the travel insurance doesn't cover certain issues that are more likely to happen, so why even get it? And then there's another one that says, no, you need to get travel insurance and get the highest amount, or maybe you should get it for just specific things. Tell me where you stand, where AAA stands when it comes to travel insurance.
So with travel insurance, we always advise for people to purchase this. Especially if you're traveling internationally, you're likely spending a lot of money. So we want you to protect that investment. If anything happens, if you get sick, if you can't go on that vacation, if something happens while you're on that vacation, we want you to be able to get that investment back if you at all possibly can.
So she's not going to be joining you
so
for
with
the
travel
run
insurance,
through the whiskey
there are different
zoo, right?
options.
What's that
so
called
depending
again?
on what you're booking, how you're traveling, it really can be beneficial. So with those different types of travel insurance, of course, some things are covered, right? Some things are not covered. And I think it ultimately comes down to that personal choice and how comfortable with risk that you are. But just personally, and from AAA, if you're making that investment and traveling, you really want to protect that so you're not losing out on money if something were to happen on that trip. And that's also where a travel advisor comes in very handy, because they can explain to you, what travel insurance would look like for your trip, how much you need, what that would cost. And a lot of times it's really not that expensive to add on that travel insurance policy to your trip.
Good deal. I appreciate you explaining that. Anything else you want to mention that you feel is important for some of the people, some of our viewers, thousands of which join us each and every morning when they're traveling internationally? Yeah.
I think the biggest thing this year is planning ahead. We're expecting things to be very busy. I've already heard reports this morning that we're expecting things to get even busier this summer.
Yeah, I can't
so
even
if you
carry on
haven't
all my
booked that
luggage for a
international
long
travel
trip.
yet, go ahead and do that as soon as possible, especially if you're
And she
traveling
can.
this summer. But planning
More power to her.
ahead, flexibility is key. If you are in the early planning phases of planning
good
an
luck with that.
international trip, some of
I mean,
those
you're gonna
ways
be
that
there
you can
for,
save
what, a
money
week,
are
10
being
days?
flexible. Maybe
don't know if that's
traveling in the off season, maybe traveling during the week versus on the weekend. But the biggest thing I think for travelers this year is start to plan early and book that trip early. With the demand and the interest that we've seen so far this year, that's likely to continue throughout the rest of the year. So that sweet spot of getting the trip that you want at the price that you want really is going to come from planning ahead and booking early.
Megan Cooper, who only carries on her luggage on those international flights. Megan, I really appreciate you and all that you do for us here at the Digital Desk, informing our public about the do's and don'ts when it comes to so many different things, including international travel. Thanks very much. All right, we got Action News 5's Midday coming up at the top of the hour with Ariana Poindexter. She's going to break down what to expect news-wise over the weekend. And then, of course, we have a loud voice over there talking right now. But we're wrapping up the Digital Desk for the week. So have yourself a wonderful weekend. We got the Digital Desk bright and early tomorrow morning beginning at 8 o'clock. Take care.